It's week 2 of this VGC 2015 Prismatic Draft League season. As always for this season, it is a VGC style draft league. In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Mega Evolution all over the place, restricted Pokemon nowhere to be seen. Here are the standings at the end of week 1 in Pool A. This is my own pool, so this is the same table that I showed in Monday's video, and you can go back to Monday's video to find out how the Halifax Masquerade men did against the Minnesota Marshadows in week 2. We'll get to everyone else's results next, but of course, several teams undefeated through just 1 week of competition and several others trying to catch up, and still room for basically anything to happen. And the same is the case over in Pool B, where these are the standings going into week 2. A 4-way tie at the top, as 4 different teams are undefeated in games so far, but we'll see how that holds up this week. Just 1 trade this time. I think a lot of coaches are more or less happy with their rosters after the grace period going into week 1, but there are going to be more trades in the next couple weeks. There's just only 1 that came in specifically for week 2, and that's the East Coast Espurr from Pool A, dropping Blaziken and Meowstic for Charizard and Mega Lucario. So the Espurr finally get the second Mega Pokemon that all teams are allowed. Mega Salamence, of course, is the second most expensive Pokemon in the whole draft, so building their whole draft around that and not taking a second Mega made a lot of sense, as Mega Pokemon are very strong and tend to cost a lot of points anyway. But I do think this makes their team a good bit stronger. I think Mega Lucario as a second Mega to complement Mega Salamence makes a ton of sense to me, because you can even run them together and it can cover Salamence's weaknesses, but it also, of course, you can use it in matchups where Salamence is bad. But Mega Salamence wants to spam flying type attacks, and it's going to have some difficulty into rock types, steel types, electric types to a lesser extent, because it's not weak to electric, and it does have the Dragon Stab and Earthquake and stuff as well. But yeah, rock and steel types are the most obvious Pokemon that can sit on the field in front of Mega Salamence's Aerolate boosted Hyper Voices or Double Edges or something. And Mega Lucario cleans those up nicely. Obviously, you can't Mega Evolve both of them in the same game, but just regular Lucario should be able to lend a lot of support to Salamence, or again, you can bring Lucario without Salamence in some situations. I think it makes the team a lot more threatening that they have a second Mega that complements Salamence so well, and also gives them a Fairy Dragon Steel Core with Salamence and Florges. And giving up Meowstic for that is probably not a huge cost to this team when they have a ton of support Pokemon already, right? Like, they do lose some Prankster options with Meowstic being traded away, but they have Cottony for a lot of disruptive Prankster support. They have Clefairy as a different kind of support Pokemon. They have Thundurus with Prankster status and so on. There's not... Meowstic does bring some things to the table that nothing else in their draft does, but I don't think it's a huge loss to get rid of it when they have so many support pieces already. And as for Blaziken, right... swapping the fire starters here, going from Blaziken down to Charizard. The reason I think they did this is their budget is at its limit before this trade, and Blaziken is more expensive than Charizard. They get exactly the points they needed to turn Meowstic into Lucario, so I think it makes it's largely here to make the math work, but they're getting a stronger fighting type attacker in Mega Lucario anyway. And while Charizard is not quite as flexible as Blaziken, it does have some surprise sets that it can run, and even if you just run the basic solar power fire attack stuff, Charizard gives their team another threat that opponents will have to take seriously, right? I think this is a team where you'd probably see Rain more often than Sun, considering that they have the Ferrothorn and the Thundurus, but they can run a Sun mode with Cottony if they want. I've learned now that Cottony does get Tailwind in this generation, so it can give some speed control to Charizard as well. And it's just one more thing that opponents will have to think about in the team builder. And then overall, Charizard, of course, also gives them Fire, Water, Grass with Ferrothorn and Swampert. Blaziken did too, but Charizard makes sure they still have it. I do think it's a step down from Blaziken, but I think Mega Lucario is such an improvement on Blaziken that it's very worthwhile, and making this swap to make the math work is a pretty small cost to them. So overall, main piece here I think is Mega Lucario, and I think it adds a lot to their team and makes a ton of sense. That's the only trade for now, so let's just go right to the replays. I have so many tabs open. Let's go. Alright, we start once again with Pool A first, and then Pool B. So, first set in Pool A, played this week. And what do you know, we got the East Coast Espurr right away, fresh off their trade, actually bringing the Lucario and the Charizard, and no Salamence. So, Lucario and Charizard look like they might well be the main offensive engines here. Against the Azure-Bait Chatots, the Chatots have the Talonflame, the Mega Blastoise, the Mega Sceptile. Those are both Megas, right? I don't think anyone drafted Sceptile or Blastoise without being able to Mega Evolve them. So they can focus on attacking with either of those, but both are kind of weak into Ferrothorn unless there's a hidden power fire hidden somewhere, which there could be. So the Talonflame and the Lucario might be important to remove Ferrothorn. And then the Espurr brought 2 Fairies and Charizard, so Sceptile looks pretty suspect here. But there could be a Blastoise game plan with Talonflame and Lucario helping with the problem part of that matchup. I'm also curious as to what the Dewgong is doing here. I was about to say there's no Perish Trap, but honestly there could be with like Whirlpool. Maybe that's a stretch, but it's not impossible that they try something like that. But my guess is Dewgong has some other role here. I'm very curious as to what that is. Although, I don't know. Maybe it's for a specific matchup and we won't see it brought to a game. Like, maybe Dewgong is here to help them check Salamence, and we don't see it brought to a game because Salamence isn't here. That seems plausible to me, but we'll have to find out. As for the Espurr, they have Ferrothorn with a bunch of supports. There could be a setup Ferrothorn game plan. More likely, I think Ferrothorn is just here to be thrown at the opponent's Megas and make life hard for them. And Lopunny and stuff as well. I really think we might be seeing them trying to sweep through the opposing team with Lucario or Charizard, or both. Supported by Cottonee and Clefairy, but we'll have to find out. And of course, this is also is Lucario versus Lucario. The Espurr have the one that can Mega Evolve. So we start game 1 with Lucario and Blastoise against Cottonee and Charizard. We don't get Lucario on the field at the same time just yet, but we do get Blastoise versus Charizard, classic matchup. Blastoise leading with a Fake Out, not Mega Evolving, and leading with a Fake Out into Cottonee, as Charizard just cooks Lucario with a Heat Wave and chips Blastoise a little bit. It looks like Charizard is here to just attack. The Talonflame is here, makes sense. They probably need to bring the Talonflame to all 3 games, unless they're really making a read about what the Espurr will bring. Even then, Talonflame is one of their best Pokemon into literally everything that the Espurr brought, right? So we probably are going to see it in all 3 games, and how effectively they use it is going to make a huge difference to this matchup. I mean, Talonflame is a Fire Resist, it's a Fairy Resist, it offensively threatens all of Lucario, Ferrothorn, Cottonee. It's a huge matchup problem, but it's also only one Pokemon and not an especially strong one, so we'll see how the Espurr deal with it. Charizard gets Ancient Power, right? I wonder if they brought that. But okay, Blastoise will Mega Evolve here. It's just a Brave Bird into Ferrothorn. It does a lot. Oh, it was into Cottonee to switch Ferrothorn in this turn. It still does a lot to Ferrothorn. Heat Wave does some chip, but not massive damage. And a Muddy Water actually knocks Charizard down to an invisible Focus Sash and gets the accuracy drop into both targets. Double up Brave Bird from the Talonflame here, takes out the Ferrothorn. Is this Banded Talonflame? I don't know, my calcs feels like it might be. As -1 accuracy, Charizard misses Heat Wave into both targets. That would have knocked out Talonflame. Instead, Charizard will drop to a Muddy Water. The Espurr down to their last 2 Pokemon already, Cottonee and Lucario. Lucario Mega Evolves, but the priority Brave Bird, of course, comes out before anything else. I wonder whether Cottonee went for Tailwind or something there. We don't know, because Talonflame is faster, and this is Gen 6 Gale Wings. It always has priority on Flying-type moves, independent of where its HP is at. So if Cottonee went for any kind of Prankster move there, Talonflame would still go first. The Brave Bird takes out the Cottonee. Talonflame, I think, happy to trade itself there. As Lucario will land an Aura Sphere into Blastoise for a lot of damage, but not a KO. Muddy Water back, chips it pretty well. We see the Dewgong after all. Lucario protecting, maybe to scout what they're going for. Hidden Power from Dewgong. I'm going to guess that's probably Fire, because the Chatots probably know they need more answers to the Ferrothorn than just landing a Flare Blitz or a couple of Aura Spheres at just the right time. And if they're clicking that into Lucario, it could be a different type. We don't have a ton to go on, but my guess is that it's Fire. It is super effective, so Fire, Fighting, Ground. Does Lucario have any other weaknesses? Nothing's coming to mind. I think it's probably Fire. But the Chatots take this one pretty smoothly, thanks in part to, well, dodging the Heat Wave with both Pokemon when Charizard was at -1 accuracy was pretty big. There was something else that happened, wasn't there? Getting the double accuracy drop really only mattered into the Charizard, but yeah, I guess that series of rolls kept the Talonflame around long enough. I mean, maybe the Chatots win this anyway, but the Talonflame stuck around long enough that by the time it dropped, everything except Lucario had been removed. So we'll see what the Espurr come up with now for Game 2. And seeing hidden power on the Dewgong that could be fire type also is pretty interesting if they want to try a Ferrothorn game plan or something again, but we'll see if they do. Talonflame leading for the Chatots with Blastoise against Lucario and Clefairy. Okay. Lucario Mega Evolves immediately and goes for Protect. I honestly don't remember what happens to Lucario's stats if it Mega Evolves, but my guess is they're going for more speed or something with that. Blastoise not Mega Evolving yet, just Fake Out into Clefairy, but we get the Protect from both Pokemon on the Espurr side. Talonflame, I think, is probably choice to locking into Flare Blitz here. But then it switches out for Chatots Lucario. Blastoise will Mega Evolve here. Still take a lot of damage from an Aura Sphere. Mega Lucario might not be competitively one of the very best Megas, but it hits extremely hard, which is all the more reason it's a great complement to Mega Salamence on their roster. The Muddy Water does some respectable damage, but less than half to both. Thanks to Friend Guard, I think, in Lucario's case. Lucario one-shots the opposing Lucario with an Aura Sphere, survives a Muddy Water, surely thanks to the Friend Guard. As Clefairy Moonblast chips Blastoise down a bit, Dewgong comes in but switches right out to Talonflame, maybe trying to bait a not very useful Aura Sphere, but instead Lucario just goes for Protect, and so does Clefairy. And it's just Muddy Water again. And now Blastoise will switch out for Dewgong. Dewgong's in a tricky spot, though, because it's weak to fighting. Talonflame does have the priority Brave Bird, but Clefairy redirects it for this turn. And so the Aura Sphere can come out and one-shot Dewgong. And now, I mean, Lucario will drop to a Brave Bird. There's also Fake Out pressure from the Blastoise again, but now Ferrothorn is here. Talonflame, if I'm correct that is choiced, cannot switch to Flare Blitz. We saw that the Brave Bird does actually quite a bit to Ferrothorn in Game 1, but Talonflame cannot just wipe it out with a Flare Blitz probably ever. We see the Fake Out into Ferrothorn. Iron Barbs does some damage, but doesn't quite KO the Blastoise. Lucario is still kind of pinned down by the Brave Bird, except not really because it shows that it has extreme speed. Takes out Blastoise with that before dropping to Brave Bird. And now it's Talonflame against Ferrothorn, and then the Espurr have one more Pokemon, which is Florges. And the Brave Bird will one-shot the Florges, but also do a bunch of recoil to Talonflame. Ferrothorn can get the KO with Gyro Ball. Talonflame was, I think, in a no-win spot there anyway because of Iron Barbs, recoil, the fact that Brave Bird just doesn't wipe out the Ferrothorn like Flare Blitz would. So the extreme speed tech on the Lucario really coming through there for the Espurr. The Lucario looked like it was under a lot of pressure from the Talonflame, unable to quite get the KO on the Blastoise before being knocked out itself. But then at just the right moment, they showed that actually they had higher priority than Talonflame did all along. And that is a mixed Lucario with Aura Sphere and extreme speed, so yeah, pretty good tech there. They got the Blastoise very low before clicking the extreme speed too. I would guess the Lucario is heavily invested in special attack, but extreme speed is strong enough that in the right position with a weakened opponent, you can just go for it anyway. But both these teams have shown some decent surprises. Let's see what they come up with for Game 3. It's Dewgong leading. We saw Dewgong all 3 games. But we still only got a small look at what it's actually here to do. Dewgong leading with Lopunny against Clefairy and Lucario. Lucario will Mega Evolve immediately again and protect around Fake Out, I assume. Clefairy does the same. It is Fake Out from Lopunny and Hidden Power from Dewgong. Now Dewgong will switch out to Talonflame, maybe trying to bait an Aura Sphere, get in safely. But they need... Well, I was going to say they need damage on the Clefairy. But actually we see Lopunny using Switcheroo into Clefairy. Now, I paused before we saw the reveal of the item. It can't be a choice... Wait, it can be a choice item. Wait, Lopunny gets Klutz. I just did that Black 2 playthrough where my Lopunny had Klutz. This actually can be a choice item, I think, because... Yes, we saw the Lopunny change moves, but if it has Klutz, the item doesn't affect it. It could be something else too, but this actually could be Banded or Specs, Klutz Lopunny, clicking Fake Out, and then Switcheroo, and that's super fun if that is what it is. That's Assault Vest. Same concept, right? Lopunny is able to click Switcheroo with an Assault Vest because it's not affected by the item. So Clefairy, we've seen it use Protect and Follow Me. I don't think we've seen any other moves. Maybe I'm forgetting something. Some people don't run Clefairy with an attack. It's possible this Clefairy can't do anything, or it's possible that all it can do is a pretty useless Dazzling Gleam or something. The Aura Sphere does go into Talonflame. It actually does a fair bit. Mega Lucario is looking super scary in this set, but now we see Dewgong switch out to Blastoise, Lucario to Florges. Florges takes a lot from a Flare Blitz, but again, this is the tricky thing with Talonflame in this matchup. Talonflame is extremely powerful into everything the Espurr brought, but it takes so much damage every time it attacks because its attack stat is not that high, and it has to rely on the higher power of moves like Flare Blitz and Brave Bird. And then being one of their best answers to Ferrothorn is also kind of a double-edged sword because Iron Barbs will hurt Talonflame as well. So Talonflame can do a lot of work in this set, but not for very long, and this one is already pretty significantly worn down after not even getting the KO on Florges here. Clefairy does show Moonblast. Actually, I think we had seen that already in Game 2, right? It chipped the Blastoise a bit in that game, so we know that the Clefairy can attack. That does okay damage, I mean, considering that it's a Clefairy that it's coming from. The Blastoise will Mega Evolve next. We see Hidden Power on the Florges, super effective into the Talonflame. It could be Rock. Hidden Power types are kind of hard to guess because I haven't memorized all the rosters, right? But it could be Electric, because that covers the Talonflame and the Mega Blastoise and the Dewgong. You can run Grass coverage on Florges for those other mons, but that's not useful in a Talonflame, and Talonflame is a Fairy Resist, so if you want to cover all those things in one move, it could be Hidden Power Electric. And then you have your Fairy Stab to hit things like Sceptile and Lucario. I don't even remember what other Pokemon the Chatots have right now that they didn't bring. But in any case, whatever... Well, I guess it has to be... I could also be Water. That's also super effective into Talonflame, but I don't think it is. I think it's... My guess is Electric. It could be Rock. Either way, it takes out the low HP Talonflame. I'm having fun guessing hidden power types. I have no idea how many I'm getting right, but that is going to be a fun little subplot of these videos, I think. Anyway, Muddy Water misses into Florges. Pretty unfortunate for the Chatots there, as Florges is low, but now it'll stick around longer. Clefairy gets to chip Blastoise down some more with the Moonblast, and that damage is not a lot, but it's adding up. We see the hidden power into Dewgong. It's super effective. It still could be Electric or Rock, now that I think about it. Dewgong's also weak to Rock, but Blastoise isn't, and that's why I'm guessing Electric. But yeah, Dewgong doesn't take a ton from that, though. And an Ice Beam back will not KO the Florges, but Muddy Water does. Florges took that Ice Beam like it was nothing. Wow. Another Clefairy Moonblast. This time it gets the special attack drop into Blastoise. Dewgong pivoting out. They're trying to get the fake out pressure going, but the Lopunny, at least I think that's what they're doing, but the Lopunny just gets dropped by an Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere kind of tears through this team now, especially with Blastoise taking another Moonblast, another special attack drop. There's no way it's not in Aura Sphere range now. Lucario protecting. I think Dewgong gets fake out, so that's probably what they're covering for. But we just see a hidden power from Dewgong. Muddy Water still doesn't take out the Clefairy, by the way. That Assault Vest actually has helped the Clefairy stick around for a long time. At this point, I think Lucario probably just wins the game anyway. Maybe not if Dewgong hits harder than I realized with Hidden Power Fire, but Clefairy just being able to sit there with the Assault Vest and actually doing, considering what Pokemon it is, kind of respectable damage to Mega Blastoise with Moonblast and getting special attack drops occasionally. It's not... I don't know, it's not a huge swing in the game, I think, but it does kind of feel like the switcheroo has backfired on the Chatots to some extent. I guess an Eviolite would make it... I guess an Eviolite would boost its special defense just as much as an Assault Vest anyway, right? So the switcheroo really doesn't make that much difference. Clefairy would be just as hard to bring down. It's just kind of funny. If it were like Choice Banded Clefairy, then it would drop more quickly after the switcheroo. But anyway. Extreme Speed will knock out the Dewgong. Muddy Water will finally knock out Clefairy, but not do a whole lot to Lucario through the Friend Guard. And they do get the accuracy drop, but Aura Sphere is a perfect accuracy attack. So, no chance it misses. We see Ferrothorn, and we see Blastoise get knocked out. And the East Coast Espurr showing the strength of their trade this week. I mean, we didn't see the Charizard do very much. Largely because it missed that Heat Wave. It was doing decent damage when it connected, but the Mega Lucario put in a ton of work and made an excellent debut overall in this East Coast Espurr win. Next we have the Edmonton Exeggcute taking on the Bookclun. And the Exeggcute have brought the Smeargle once again. Who knows what kind of bizarre set they have this time. And then they have what looks like just a bunch of physical offense. Blaziken, Azumarill, Weavile. I don't know what you do with Barbaracle if it's not physical offense. And then Vivillon. Vivillon is the only thing here that looks like a special attacker. Maybe they have some kind of surprise special attacking Blaziken, or knowing them, Smeargle. But I guess more likely Vivillon is in a support role with like Rage Powder or Sleep Powder or something. I'm curious to see how they deal with the Arcanine, because their team looks very vulnerable to Intimidate, although they did bring 2 water types at least. But on the Book Club side, Tornadus and Zapdos. I don't know. My mind is blanking. That's Mega Lopunny, right? They have the Mega Lopunny. The Chatots don't. Mega Lopunny looks pretty strong here, except into Azumarill. But you can threaten that with Zapdos. You can maybe threaten it with Again, the Intimidate Arcanine looks really strong here. Zapdos might be important to remove the Azumarill to create openings for Arcanine and Lopunny, but I don't have a great read on what the game plan is. And the other thing is, we could also see Manual Rain from the book club here, with all of Tornadus, Zapdos, and Scizor showing up. But that actually makes Azumarill and Barbaracle stronger, so we'll see if it's worthwhile for them. I don't know. It's the Exeggcute. We're just going to have to jump in and see what kind of weird Smeargle set they brought. And it does lead here with Blaziken against Zapdos and Tornadus. Okay. What are people saying in the chat? Chat, are we cooked? Well, we'll find out. Anyway, Blaziken Mega Evolves turn 1. And Smeargle gets taunted, but this is the Edmonton Exeggcute. I'm not sure Taunt really does anything to that Smeargle. We'll find out. It gets dropped to its Sash by Thunderbolt. The book club clearly respecting the Smeargle, trying to get rid of it immediately. And we see a Pledge combo. We see Smeargle go for Water Pledge, while Blaziken goes for Fire Pledge. That does a bunch of damage. It is off of Mega Blaziken's special attack stat, and it's not quite enough to knock out this Tornadus. I believe the way pledges work, it's also a water type attack, but either type is neutral to either of these targets anyway. Doesn't quite get the KO on Tornadus, but this will set up the silliest of the 3 pledge combos, the Rainbow, which I think acts basically like Serene Grace for everything on the Exeggcute side of the field. It's a combo that seems like it has the most fun potential, but also seems like the hardest to really do anything worthwhile with in VGC. But this opens up a whole range of possible hacks game plans that the Exeggcute might have, so let's see. The Rainbow is here, Blaziken is speed boosted, Smeargle gets a Moody boost from the Taunt. What? Smeargle gets an attack boost from the Moody. There we go. It's also taunted. I don't think it's going to be making great use of that. We see Rock Slide. We see Tailwind from Tornadus. Rock Slide from Blaziken takes out the Tornadus. Does a little bit more than half to Zapdos. Zapdos flinches. Does the Rainbow affect flinch rates? I think it does, but it doesn't stack with Serene Grace for them, right? Well, I think that flinch probably was... I'm not 100% sure of the mechanic off the top of my head, but I think that flinch probably was more likely because they set up the pledge combo. So, Water Pledge Smeargle plus speed boosting Rock Slide Blaziken is a pretty evil tack. Gotta hand it to the Exeggcute on that one. And then we see the Smeargle click Diamond Storm, which I can't remember. Diamond Storm is what, 50% defense boost? So is it a guaranteed defense boost in the Rainbow? I'm not sure, but I think it might be. And it does a bunch of damage to Zapdos and gets the KO. So this team is looking hard to deal with right now. Let's see what the book club have in the back. It's Gallade and Arcanine. There's the Intimidate, but the Intimidate doesn't seem as scary as it used to. And I forgot that they also have Mega Gallade along with Lopunny, but it does Mega Evolve here and Protect. One downside to the Rainbow, it doesn't last very long. This is already its second last turn, so Gallade killing a turn with Protect there is pretty valuable to the book club. Arcanine takes some damage from the Rock Slide, but it's a -1 Rock Slide. Arcanine takes it reasonably well. It does get flinched. It also survives the Diamond Storm. Smeargle is still stacking up those defense boosts, no longer taunted. Arcanine showing a Citrus Berry for some recovery. I can't even read the Smeargle stats right now. Okay, for a second there when Blaziken switched out, I could. I'm not going to worry about it. Barbaracle's here. If I speak, I'm in big trouble. It's that kind of set, isn't it? We really went from Espurr versus Chatots to this. Alright, Gallade, Zen Headbutt. Does a little more than half to Barbaracle. Smeargle has been at 1 HP for a while now, so I've been talking up those defense boosts, but they don't actually do anything for it when a Flare Blitz comes out. It's fun to see on my screen, and actually the book club have enough rock weaknesses that focusing on rock type attacks is it makes a lot of sense here. But then we'll see if the Mega Gallade can exploit that. Anyway, Smeargle's gone. I don't have to worry about reading those stats. Blaziken's back. We see a Helping Hand into Gallade, Zen Headbutt into Blaziken, blocked by Protect. Barbaracle showing the Aerial Ace. Barbaracle gets Tough Claws. Does that boost contact moves? I think it does. So that might be a stronger Aerial Ace than we think, but Gallade does get knocked out. Tailwind's gone. Rainbow's gone. Rock Slide. Blaziken's still going to be faster than things, still going to be able to knock out that Arcanine, and now Gallade stands alone at not super high HP, but it does at least resist Rock. It takes a Rock Slide, knocks out Blaziken with a Zen Headbutt, but it's taken too much damage and it drops to an aerial ace with a surely unnecessary crit. A surely unnecessary crit, and the Edmonton Exeggcute take game 1 with a pretty evil Rock Slide flinch strat that does make a lot of sense into Tornadus Zapdos lead. Let's see, the book club do have as many as 2 fighting types though, because the Lopunny can also Mega Evolve. So let's see what answers they come up with in game 2. Azumarill leading this time, not Smeargle, with Vivillon. We didn't see either of these Pokemon in game 1. I don't think. Against Zapdos, it's Zapdos Tornadus again. That's pretty bold by the book club, but okay. Rage Powder on the Vivillon. It's Skydrop on the Tornadus. And then Thunderbolt takes out Azumarill. Okay. I did see this discussed in the Discord. I don't watch the replays before I record these, but I don't strictly refuse to read the Discord discussion of what happened. So I knew there was a Skydrop moment, although honestly I did forget until now that it was in this specific set. Skydrop is a weird move that I'm not sure exists in the games anymore. It works, as seen here. It's sort of like Fly in that it's a physical flying type attack that takes 2 turns to execute, but instead of going up into the sky alone, you take the target up into the sky with you, and then I think it's unable to move while it's in the sky, and then you drop it. What I know is going to happen, because it came up in the Discord, is this Vivillon is going to take no damage from this, because flying types are immune to Skydrop. I guess the idea is if you drop them out of the sky, they just stay in the sky by flying, so they're fine. They don't take the fall damage. I have a feeling the chat's going to pop off here when that happens. But hey, Vivillon, I think, will be unable to move this next turn. Or actually, Tornadus is probably faster than Vivillon. Wait, I don't know. I don't even remember how this works. If you're in the air because your opponent used Skydrop on you, can you select a move still? That part I'm going to have to wait and see. It's a move that, you know, I remember this move existing, but I'm not sure. I don't think I ever made much use of it or had much experience of it in competitive play. Anyway, Blaziken's here. Mega Evolves. Zapdos will protect. By the way, no idea what the Azumarill was here to do. It just got knocked out. Blaziken protects. And here's the Skydrop. Vivillon is immune to the damage. Vivillon does get to move this turn. So if Vivillon had been faster than Tornadus, I think that Sleep Powder would not have come out. But because the Skydrop finishes before Vivillon's action, Sleep Powder does come out, puts the Tornadus to sleep. Now we get a speed boost. And yeah, I don't think the coach of the book club knew that flying types are immune to Skydrop. It's a pretty obscure interaction, because when was the last time you ever saw Skydrop? I don't think I would remember it either if I hadn't seen some of the discussion after this match. So I have an advantage there. But anyway, Glade's here. We get Rage Powder on the Vivillon. We get a Rock Slide. Does a lot to Zapdos, not a lot to Glade. Thunderbolt takes out Vivillon. Pokemon are getting knocked out pretty quickly on the Exeggcute side, despite the shenanigans. So now we see Mega Gallade. Blaziken's a +2 speed, though. Zapdos just wipes out the Barbaracle with a Thunderbolt. And Blaziken's now the last Pokemon remaining. It is going to be faster than anything, but that Rock Slide doesn't do a whole lot to Gallade. There's no Rainbow to improve the flinch rate, and Gallade just needs to land 1 Zen Headbutt. We saw that in Game 1. And close out the win. So, honestly, what we saw the book club bring to this game was pretty similar to Game 1. But the Exeggcute changed up their game plan and ended up with something that matched up a lot worse into this. And the Zapdos just spamming a really strong Thunderbolt took, what, 3 KOs? Well, they also brought 3 Electric Weeks to this game. Took 3 KOs, and then Gallade was able to clean up pretty easily because it's not afraid of Rock Slide, and it can one-shot the Blaziken. So, I wonder whether the Exeggcute will go back to the Smeargle stuff in Game 3, but it's Game 3. Let's just find out now. Weavile and Blaziken, okay, no Smeargle, against Gallade and Lopunny, both Megas on the field for the book club, so who's to say which one will Mega Evolve? Again, I think Lopunny makes a lot of sense, because the Exeggcute have been spamming Rock-type attacks so much this set that having that second fighting type could be pretty hard for them to deal with. And with Weavile actually coming to this game, that might be all the more appealing, but we'll see. Blaziken Mega Evolves. No Mega yet on the book club side. They're playing a mind game. As Gallade will be faked out, but then Lopunny with a Drain Punch. Not even any stab yet before it Mega Evolves, just one-shots the Weavile, thanks to that double fighting weakness. Gallade does flinch. Oh, but it has Steadfast, so it gets a speed boost for flinching. And the Mega Decision is made for them here as Blaziken one-shots Lopunny. But now they're facing +1 speed Gallade. Blaziken's only at +1 itself. Azumarill's here, but so is Zapdos. We saw what Zapdos could do last game. It does take a lot from Rock Slide, though, but Gallade will Mega Evolve here. Misses the Zen Headbutt into the Blaziken. Zapdos does not flinch. One-shots the Azumarill. Blaziken gets that second speed boost, though, but it's still just clicking Rock Slide. And Gallade's still not flinching. Takes out the Barbaracle with a close combat, which is interesting. Maybe thought Blaziken would protect this turn. Instead, Blaziken takes a bunch of damage from a Thunderbolt to protect this turn. Avoids close combat and Thunderbolt, but I mean, I think this... well, the Book Club still have another Pokemon in the back. We don't know what it is. If it's Tornadus, then it could come in... If it's Tornadus, it could set Tailwind, but Blaziken's too fast for that anyway. Also, if it's Arcanine. It might be Arcanine. I don't know. I don't know what I mean by if it is. I don't know what's going on in the back. What I'm going to say is, independent of the Pokemon in the back, Blaziken can win this position if it flinches Gallade once or twice. I'm not sure how many it needs. Gallade's at lower defenses, too. It probably only needs one flinch. If it lands its Rock Slides and gets that flinch on Gallade, then at least they can get through to whatever the last Pokemon is. And, I mean, if it's Arcanine or Tornadus, you might be able to break through those with Rock Slide, too. So it's not over for the Exeggcute, even though it doesn't look good, but they actually miss this Rock Slide into Gallade. They do take out the Zapdos. And Gallade, because Blaziken is chipped, Gallade doesn't have to rely on hitting a Zen Headbutt. Maybe not wanting to go for that after already missing one in this game. Blaziken now in range of close combat. Mega Gallade gets to be the hero here. Zapdos did a ton of work as well, but Mega Gallade delivering back-to-back wins for the Book Club as they take the 2-1 win in the set. We only saw the Smeargle in Game 1, and the Rainbow honestly did go crazy with the Blaziken boosting its speed and spamming Rock Slide. It's a pretty evil tech. Maybe they couldn't find it in their soul to bring it a second time. But without that Smeargle, the Exeggcute do lose the remaining games. Next we have the Denver Dewotts taking on the Ryan Green-Blue Porygon 2s. The Dewotts. It is Sand versus Hail here. The Dewotts have their Sand duo of Tyranitar and Excadrill. We might well see some Weather Wars, although there's no Glaceon on the Porygon 2's side this time, so the Hail might just be here to disrupt the Sand. That said, Heatran and Rotom Heat Form are going to make it hard for Abomasnow to sit around on the field. Between that and being weak to Rock and Steel as well, it might be pretty difficult for Abomasnow to come to this game, even if it wants to disrupt the weather, so they might just have to play in the Sandstorm. We'll see what the Porygon 2s are willing to go for. That said, they do have a lot of strong matchup pieces here. Bronzong and Jellicent can set Trick Room, which is pretty strong into the Dewotts here because Excadrill wants to go fast. Tyranitar is, faster than a lot of what the Porygon 2s have. So is Heatran, so is Gardevoir, so is Rotom. The one tricky thing is Amoonguss, which can be very disruptive into a Trick Room game plan. But then if you get them to bring Amoonguss to deal with the Trick Room, maybe that creates more room to bring Abomasnow, or maybe Togekiss, or Bronzong itself can remove the Amoonguss. So Trick Room could be pretty threatening from the Porygon 2s here. The Rotom and Jellicent are both pretty good answers to Heatran and Excadrill. They are a little bit shakier into Tyranitar. You can burn the Tyranitar with a Will-O-Wisp from either of those Pokemon, unless you're Aaron Zhang. But Jellicent being weak to Dark especially, and Rotom being less bulky than Jellicent is a little bit challenging. Then again, they have the Mienshao on the Porygon 2 side that can threaten Tyranitar and Excadrill and Heatran. A little bit afraid of Gardevoir, maybe getting burned by Rotom once again. And then the Togekiss. The Togekiss has trouble into Double Steel, but with the Fairy typing into Tyranitar, flying into Amoonguss, there's some arguments for bringing it. So there are a lot of tricky matchup interactions between these two teams, and a lot I think will come down to the specific game plans, but let's see. The Dewotts having the advantage in the weather matchup here should be pretty big for them, but there are some ways the Porygon 2s can fight back. It's Amoonguss Heatran lead. We're definitely playing VGC here against Mienshao and Jellicent. 2 letters of chalk on the field, by the way, on the same side. Fake out into Amoonguss, and it's just Water Spout from the Jellicent. That does a ton to Heatran, not much into Amoonguss, but Amoonguss won't be moving this turn. Heatran showing the Dark Pulse. I'll be honest, I'd forgotten it can learn that. Does more than half to Jellicent, so that Water Spout will not be nearly as strong now. Now Heatran protects on a low kick, so it avoids that KO. Jellicent just going for the Water Spout anyway. I wonder if it's choiced. I would not guess that this Jellicent is choice, but that is a fun surprise if that's what they've gone for. But it will take a nap now. After not doing a whole lot of damage this turn, we see Jellicent switch out to Rotom, we see Rage Powder, but Mienshao clearly holding the safety goggles, as I think there's no other way that it can be immune to the Rage Powder, takes out the Heatran. Amoonguss now still sitting reasonably comfortably on the field against two Pokemon that don't especially threaten it, you would think. We're gonna see a wide guard here from the Mienshao. I don't know what they're covering for. Maybe Discharge? Rage Powder. It's just overheated Mienshao at crits and one-shots. But Amoonguss takes the Hydro Pump pretty nicely. Yeah, Amoonguss is still pretty comfy, as we haven't seen what the Porygon 2s have in this specific game to deal with it. But, okay, Togekiss is the answer. It's their last Pokemon. Rotom has lowered its special attack, so Togekiss is relatively safe here, at least for this turn. Tyranitar will switch in, though. Amoonguss has not shown Protect so far, but if Amoonguss protects and Tyranitar threatens the Togekiss, it gets a bit trickier, but it's tricky for both teams for sure. Sandstorm goes up as well. Tyranitar takes a Hydro Pump pretty well with that Rock-type special defense boost. Amoonguss survives an Air Slash, but it flinches and drops to sand damage from its own teammate. Togekiss does successfully remove Amoonguss, something very important at this point to the Porygon 2s. Do they have enough to beat Tyranitar? Let's see. Heat Rotom comes back in, one-shots Togekiss with a Thunderbolt. I don't know why I keep wanting to call that Pokemon Togetic. That's not the same Pokemon. Rotom Volt switches out, but it does like nothing to Tyranitar. And Jellicent comes in on a Rock Slide and gets knocked out, and I think Rotom alone is not winning this one, as the Dewotts Rotom, it was kind of hidden at first because the overheat that it clicked first crit, but it's hitting hard. It could be choiced. But either way, the offensive pressure, the Amoonguss took a lot of resource investment to bring down, and when that finally happened, the offensive pressure from Rotom and Tyranitar was too much for the Porygon 2s. So let's see how they can adjust to that in Game 2. I still feel like Bronzong makes a lot of sense to shake up the speed control game, but if they need Mienshao to threaten some of the opposing Pokemon, maybe Trick Room is just no good for them. I don't know. They're under a lot of pressure. I don't know what the adjustment is, but let's find out. We got Jellicent and Mienshao again. Same lead as before, I think, against this time Excadrill and Amoonguss. Fake out into Excadrill will give Amoonguss a chance to do something. It's Rage Powder. Jellicent just goes for Water Spout again. Saw that one coming. The Dewotts let Excadrill get knocked out by that. Rotom is back. Mienshao switches out. Bronzong is here this time on an air balloon. Makes sense into Excadrill. Tyranitar will switch in as Overheat. Does a lot of damage to Bronzong and breaks that balloon. But Jellicent not taking any damage. Free to throw off another Water Spout, which takes out the Rotom. But the Tyranitar is taking so little damage from everything. I mean, it's probably Assault Vest Tyranitar, right? That's one of Tyranitar's best items anyway. But even with its stats and with the Sandstorm boost, I'm super impressed at how little damage it's taking from things like Hydro Pump and Water Spout. So the Tyranitar is still looking like a problem, especially now that it's supported by Amoonguss. However, you cannot redirect Water Spout because it's a spread move. And this one actually, suddenly the Tyranitar is not looking that healthy anymore after taking another Water Spout from almost full. Crunch takes out the Jellicent. Curse Body disables the Crunch. That's kind of fun. But Bronzong will take a nap now. Do the Porygon 2s have enough to break through this duo? It's not easy for them. But the Amoonguss does not go for Rage Powder, so Mienshao actually just gets to land a low kick into Tyranitar, and now Amoonguss is alone. And well, okay. I was going to say it needed Tyranitar there to do damage. That Sludge Bomb actually did a lot to Mienshao and got the poison. I guess the question is, can Amoonguss do damage to Bronzong? Bronzong staying asleep for now. Amoonguss worn down a little bit by the Sandstorm. Of course, that won't last too much longer. And we do see... It won't last much longer at all, as we do see the Abomasnow here. Amoonguss showing the Giga Drain, so... This answers my question from last game. Amoonguss does not have Protect. It has Spore, Rage Powder, Giga Drain, and Sludge Bomb. That also means it has a way to hit Bronzong. I think Bronzong... It looks like it's in range to drop to hail damage this turn anyway. Abomasnow is interesting, right? Before it Mega Evolves, it's faster than Amoonguss. Maybe after, too. Probably after. But certainly before. It's weak to Sludge Bomb, but will Amoonguss get the chance to land that attack? The Abomasnow in the back, not showing until late game when Tyranitar was gone. It's a pretty good adjustment by Ryan Green Blue here, but Bronzong will get one more chance to move. It wakes up here. It Zen Headbutts the Amoonguss. Doesn't quite KO, but does a lot of damage. We see the Citrus Berry. We do see the Bronzong knocked out by the Hail, but I don't see any way that Amoonguss stands up to these two Pokemon now, especially now that we know it doesn't have Protect. And also, I think Mega Abomasnow... I can check right now, actually. Mega Abomasnow has the same base speed as Amoonguss, so it's not necessarily faster, but the non-dynamic speed works in Ryan Green Blue's favor here, because the Abomasnow can Mega Evolve this turn and get the higher attacking stats from its Mega Form without yet having the lower speed. And we know the Amoonguss doesn't have Protect. I don't think it matters anyway when Amoonguss is that low, but yeah. Blizzard wipes it out. And we're going to game 3. So the things that I think are different in game 2, the Abomasnow is pretty exciting to see in the back, but I think the bigger thing in game 2 is that the Dewotts just allowed Jellicent to spam Water Spout, and a lot of their team is pretty weak to that. So even the Tyranitar, which I think has an Assault Vest, you know, the damage added up eventually. So do they just have to more aggressively target the Jellicent if they see it lead again in this game? Well, let's find out. Jellicent does lead again with Manchow. Same lead for Ryan Green Blue, I think, in both games, or in all 3 games. And this time it's Amoonguss and Gardevoir. Gardevoir, we know the Jellicent has Cursed Body, which means it doesn't have Water Absorb. If it had Water Absorb, it would be kind of funny for Gardevoir to trace that, and suddenly the Water Spout is not such a big issue. That was never going to happen anyway, but in any case, it traces Regenerator from Mienshao here instead. That could be fun. That could make a difference later. We'll see. Gardevoir protects as it avoids Poison Jab, and Jellicent moves next, but Amoonguss is not going to take very much from the Water Spout, and puts Jellicent to sleep. So the Dewotts making that adjustment, making sure the Jellicent can't just click there and spam its one move all day. As Gardevoir Mega Evolves, narrowly survives a Poison Jab, but goes for a Calm Mind, and actually Abomasnow switching in here means Gardevoir is going to be knocked out by the hail damage. So Gardevoir just barely surviving the Poison Jab, probably calced, right? Had a chance here to land one big attack into these 2 pretty valuable targets, as Mienshao is kind of hard for something like a Tyranitar in the back to deal with, or Heatran. Instead, going for the Calm Mind, and that's going to backfire on them pretty significantly. That said, Abomasnow switching in... Yeah, Abomasnow switching in accomplishes 2 good things for the Porygon 2s there, actually, is it gives Jellicent cover into the Giga Drain, instead not taking very much damage from that, and also the hail damage will knock out the Gardevoir. But Abomasnow has come out earlier than last time. We'll see if that hurts them in some way. Rotom switches in. Jellicent is back. Abomasnow Mega Evolves. Rotom goes for an Overheat into Jellicent. I doubt it does all that much, even if it hits, but unfortunately it misses. Any damage into Jellicent is kind of valuable, considering that the Water Spout spam actually has been kind of a problem. That said, Jellicent hasn't even taken its first turn of sleep yet, so yeah, missing that Overheat is probably not the biggest deal. But how do they deal with Abomasnow? Blizzard wipes out Amoonguss. It doesn't do too much to Rotom, though, but Rotom's getting worn down a little bit by the hail damage as well. Now Tyranitar's here, sets up the sand. Abomasnow not switching out yet, just protecting. Rotom probably choice locked into Overheat, lands that into the Jellicent. It actually does a good amount of damage there. More than I expected, I'll say that. As Jellicent stays asleep, and Abomasnow avoids a Fire Punch from Tyranitar. Interesting coverage choice when the Ice types are weak to Rock anyway, and Bronzong is covered by Crunch, but I mean, I thought about running Power Gem Ampharos against the Marshadows because it did make a difference compared to Thunderbolt to some KOs into Charizard. So maybe they calced something similar, hitting Abomasnow's double weakness. I don't know. I have not calced it. In any case, Abomasnow will switch out to Bronzong, perhaps on that Fire Punch. So sometimes you run a coverage move in draft just because it covers for switches like this as well, right? Like, if Bronzong can freely switch in on Abomasnow's Rock weakness, but it's going to take a lot from a Fire Punch if that's what you're clicking into Abomasnow, that kind of thing could inform a coverage move decision as well. And we'll see what happens here. The Overheat is still wearing the Jellicent down. Rotom's Overheat is disabled. It's at -4 special attack anyway, but Jellicent has taken a lot of damage and cannot just freely spam that Water Spout for big damage back anymore. So the Rotom doing what it needed to do there, committing to that Overheat. Gets knocked out by a Scald. Jellicent showing that it does have a second move, and after everything I said, Bronzong actually doesn't take all that much from a Fire Punch, and somehow I'm just now realizing that the fact that it has an Air Balloon is very strong evidence that its ability is Heat-proof and not Levitate. If you have Levitate, an Air Balloon is redundant. So the Bronzong is set up here to take a hit, to take a Fire Punch, or to take a Fire Stab from a Heatran, more likely, without necessarily being vulnerable to Excadrill as long as this balloon is intact. That Fire Punch did very little. of course, is Heat-Proof Bronzong. You've probably been yelling at your screen for these last couple turns that it's Heat-Proof Bronzong, but now we get to see that. And I finally clue in. Tyranitar takes a Scald. Does it get burned? No. Fire Punch. Still sticking with Fire Punch. Crunch would... I don't think it's Choice Tyranitar, because the way it's taking these special hits, I mean, maybe I'm unfamiliar with Tyranitar's game, but I feel like it must be Assault Vest. But Crunch would do way more to this Bronzong, right? Maybe they're trying to cover an Abomasnow switching in. I guess. I don't know. Anyway. Bronzong setting the Trick Room here. And then doing some good damage with the Gyro Ball. Still taking that Fire Punch nicely. And Jellicent does finally get the Scald Burn this time. Bronzong gets the last KO with the Gyro Ball, but big shout out to Jellicent. It put in work. It was removed pretty quickly in Game 1, but it put in work over the other 2 games. Just spamming the Water Spout in Game 2, and then, because it got so weakened, switching to Scald in Game 3. And the Porygon 2 is kind of proving me wrong about the Abomasnow in this matchup. They were able to bring it, and it made a big difference as well. And they take a solid 2-1 win here. And then we go to the Nothing Burger versus the Grounded Punching Bags. The Punching Bags bringing that Zoroark that they picked up in the Grace Period. I can't remember whether that's Mega Medicham or not. It's surely Mega Manectric. But... okay, let me look at the Nothing Burger first. This looks like a Trick Room team. They have the Claydol and the Trapinch. Actually, it doesn't have to be Trick Room. It can just be they brought their ground types to deal with Manectric, because that's the opponent's Mega. Trapinch can have Hyper Cutter, so it's immune to the Intimidate. And it can have Arena Trap, so that Manectric can't switch out, unless it Volt Switches into Trapinch's partner. But then if that partner is Claydol, it can't do that either. So I don't think it's a Trick Room team. I think they just brought their ground types to deal with Mega Manectric. But I don't know the rest of the game plan. Mega Bayonet, Greninja, use the ground types to clear the Manectric and try to sweep with Greninja? I don't know. Also, Zoroark could be pretty disruptive too, if their game plan is centered on removing specific threats. But yeah, I really don't know at preview what either of these teams is cooking, so I'm just going to jump in here. Golf. All right, we get we get one of the Shuckle nicknames of all time. Next to Trapinch against Tangela and Samurott, unless one of them is a Zoroark. Trapinch will just protect turn 1. Samurott goes for knockoff. I don't know if Samurott gets knockoff. It might be Zoroark, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe Samurott gets knockoff. But also, Samurott clicking a knockoff into a Trapinch, that's got to be Zoroark. Tangela going for Infestation, trapping Shuckle on the field, as Samurott also takes a knockoff, and it's Zoroark. Takes like no damage, but its sash is removed. Trapinch switches out. Shuckle is unable to switch out, so I hope Shuckle does something that they want in this position. But now Greninja switching in on Tangela is interesting. We'll see what offensive tools it has. It comes in on a Sludge Bomb from Zoroark, doesn't take too much, but then it's just knocked out by Tangela Giga Drain. Never mind, by Greninja. Shuckle going for Power Split, so that averages its attacking stats with Zoroark, and Zoroark's attacking stats are okay, and Shuckle's are very, very low, so that Zoroark is significantly nerfed now. But I believe it can just switch out and reset that. We see Whimsicott come in and just protect. Tangela goes for Rage Powder. Shuckle, though, going for Rock Slide. That will hit somewhat harder because it also averages with Zoroark's attacking stats, so Shuckle gets a power boost from that. But Zoroark's kind of strong, but it's not super strong. And we see that Rage Powder. Tangela is pretty physically bulky, probably has an Eviolite. We see that Rage Powder do not very much. Or that Rock Slide, I mean. Still just going for the Rage Powder. The Rage Powder doesn't actually do anything here because Whimsicott is immune as a grass type, and Shuckle is going for spread damage. But I was going to say maybe Tangela doesn't have anything else to do here, but like Giga Drain is probably more useful. In any case, Whimsicott, the Zoroark is so weakened that Whimsicott takes a Sludge Bomb here. Pretty impressive. And KO's back with Moonblast. And the Rock Slide chips Tangela a little bit more. Still not doing impressive damage. Now we see Crobat come in. Okay, very fast. Flying type could threaten the Whimsicott. Whimsicott will protect here. It's an Air Slash into Shuckle. The Rock Slide does about half to Crobat, though. It's not doing much to the Tangela, but the Crobat is getting worn down much more quickly. We see Encore into the Tangela. Did we see that earlier? Is that why they kept clicking? No, that can't be why they kept clicking Rage Powder, but we see it now. Locking Tangela into Infestation. Once again, I feel like just attacking is more valuable, but maybe, what are they covering for? Preventing it from Giga Draining the Shuckle, maybe? I guess that makes sense. In any case, Infestation into Whimsicott. Whimsicott will not be with us much longer. Crobat does survive a second Rock Slide. Yeah, Whimsicott's taken out by the Infestation passive damage. Now we see the Trapinch come back in. Crobat switching out to the real Samurott. Quick Attack doing very little to that. Shuckle gets infested again. Knocks off Tangela's Eviolite. That might have been valuable to do earlier. Although it's hard to argue with the Rock Slide damage into Crobat. Although Crobat did take 2 Rock Slides. Shuckle drops to a Waterfall. Trapinch is alone. I don't think Trapinch is ever beating these. It does take a Waterfall, but then not the Giga Drain. Yeah, the Tangela took the Rock Slide so well. Maybe it makes a difference if they remove the Eviolite earlier, but I don't know. Honestly, I think Zoroark just didn't give Shuckle enough attack stat for this game plan to work. But let's see what happens in Game 2. Maybe they're cooking something else. We didn't see the Mega Bayonet in Game 1, so that's a pretty obvious possible center of some game plan that they didn't bring yet. What on earth is going on in the chat? Okay, not going to worry about it. Greninja and Whimsicott against Manectric and Medicham. Greninja probably scared out by the Manectric, but we see Shuckle come in here. Not either of the ground types, so I wonder whether they brought them. If not, maybe Manectric's about to go wild here. Let's see. Whimsicott protects. It's Zoroark. It's not Manectric, it's Zoroark. That's why I didn't Mega Evolve here. The real Manectric is in the back, not yet able to Mega Evolve. Sludge Bomb into the Whimsicott from Zoroark. Special attack not reduced this time. Shuckle takes a Thunder Punch really well, but it gets paralyzed. Shuckle is already extremely slow, so the only way this really matters is if it gets some full paras, but I mean, that could happen. That said, a Power Split into... Oh, well, a Power Split into Manectric would be pretty cool, but Manectric isn't on the field, is it? We see a Sludge Bomb into Whimsicott, knock it down to its Focus Sash, and poisoning it, so it'll drop at the end of this turn. Moonblast actually takes out the Medicham with a crit. It is Power Split into Zoroark. Shuckle, once again, averaging their attacking stats. Unfortunately, we know that its Rock Slide only gets so much stronger from that. And Whimsicott drops to the poison. Now we see the Bayonet. Now we see the Samurott. We know about Focus Sash on the Zoroark already. Now we know about Assault Vest on the Samurott. Bayonet will Mega Evolve. What is going on in this chat? Oh, they didn't notice yet. I don't think Manectric can learn Sludge Bomb, guys. I don't think Manectric can learn Sludge Bomb. But they're just noticing now because the Frisk found the Focus Sash. That's unfortunate for them, but pretty funny. Everyone in chat got baited. Oops. Anyway, what happened? Zoroark used knockoff into Bayonet. It can't remove the item because it's a Mega Stone. That also means it can't get the boost for removing an item, but it still does some damage. Toxic into Manectric. Sorry, Zoroark. I know. Anyway, the Rock Slide will reveal it now. But Toxic is a pretty slow win con here. Although Shuckle might actually be able to sit on the field long enough that it pays off. Let's see. Hi, YouTube in the chat. Y'all gonna get flamed? Whoa. I hope they don't mean by me. I don't think I flame people here. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't mean by me. Okay. All right. Locking in here. The Toxic might actually pay off because the Shuckle is just so bulky. Maybe it can sit around for a long time. But they probably have to deal with the Samurott somehow for that to work. Although Waterfall did not amazing damage in Shuckle. I knock off the Assault Vest. It's a little bit stronger because of the Power Split. Oh, Disable. Disabling the Waterfall. That could keep Shuckle around longer. But you still need damage into Samurott. Bayonet's knocked out. Doesn't get to Toxic anything else. But if Shuckle is able to sit on the field for a long time, then even with the Rock Slide being not super impressively strong, the damage can add up over time, right? That said, Zoroark is finally removed and the real Manectric forced to hit the field, just as Greninja also is forced to be here. Manectric can Mega Evolve, it can Intimidate Shuckle. That honestly might matter because it makes the Rock Slide that much weaker. Full Paras can also matter. Greninja's got to be pretty afraid of Manectric right now. It's still going to take some time for them to remove the Samurott. That disable only lasts so long too. Wait, how is Zoroark back? That must have been a display thing on Showdown, judging by what they're saying in the chat. it's not Zoroark this time. Manectric Mega evolves. Oh, it's Contrary Shuckle. I forgot it gets an attack boost from the Intimidate. All right. Oh, they got me with that one. Oh, good job by the Nothing Burger. They got me with that one. We saw Contrary Shuckle last week too, and I already forgot again. It gets an attack boost from the Intimidate. Wait, this Rock Slide might actually go crazy now. Let's see. Protean on the Greninja, turning it into a normal type as it uses Protect, avoiding a Volt Switch, and turning off its weakness to that move. Knockoff into the Shuckle, gets rid of the leftovers. That could matter. We see Power Split. Wait. We see Power Split into Manectric. Wait. That'll make Infestation stronger for sure. Mega Manectric definitely has higher special attack than Zoroark. Does Mega Manectric have higher physical attack than Zoroark? I don't know what its physical attack is. I just know that people don't use it. I'm not sure whether the Shuckle just made its Rock Slide weaker or not, but my first thought is that it might have. But it's still +1, so overall benefits from this turn, but I don't know if that... I guess also you lower Manectric's special attack a bit, but like Zoroark is not crazy weak. I mean, maybe it makes a difference to Shuckle's sticking around for a while, especially if its leftovers are gone, which they are now. Greninja turning itself into a fighting type. This is Gen 6 Protean. It does not only work once. But low kick doesn't... -1 low kick does not do a whole lot to the Samurott here. Greninja gets hit by a double up, takes more than half, so it's not knocked out, but it can be knocked out next turn unless it protects. The Rock Slide does about a third to Manectric. That's not bad, but it misses the Samurott. Pretty unfortunate there for the Nothing Burger. Greninja does protect. Makes sense to me to drag this out a bit more. Let Shuckle stack up some damage. Shuckle gets the speed boost from the Icy Wind, which is super funny, but it's paralyzed and it's a Shuckle, so I doubt that'll matter. But Samurott just doing what it can while Waterfall is still disabled, but the disable ends here. Okay, the disable ends here. Samurott can use Waterfall into Shuckle. Shuckle, I think, takes a Waterfall for sure, right? Maybe even 2, but definitely 1. With Manectric attacking as well, though. But they haven't gotten rid of the Greninja yet, so the Greninja drawing attention away from the Shuckle is a pretty big advantage here for the Nothing Burger. All of that said, I think the funniest possibility here is if it's Water Shuriken Greninja, and it hits the Samurott with priority and knocks it out before Samurott gets another chance to actually click Waterfall into Shuckle. I don't know if that's what we're about to see, but I hope so. Now, Greninja's faster anyway. And Ice Punches Manectric. Survives a Volt Switch as an Ice type. Shuckle, ooh, does take a lot from that Waterfall. It does take the hit. It flinches. That Rock Slide would have knocked out Samurott, right? Wait, if Shuckle knocks out Samurott here with a Rock Slide, hang on. If Shuckle knocks out Samurott this turn with Rock Slide, especially if it also hits Manectric, I don't think that KOs, but then Greninja just wins, right? And if Manectric hasn't taken the extra damage, if the Rock Slide, say, misses Manectric, maybe it can take a hit from Greninja. But then still not from Shuckle. Was that a game-losing flinch by the Nothing Burger there? I think Shuckle might have had this if it hadn't flinched that turn. Oh, the Manectric has quick attack. Okay. So if they knock out Samurott, even then, does Manectric take 2 more +1 Rock Slides? I don't think it does. So I think it still would have had to dodge to get through the next turn after taking out Greninja with a quick attack. I think that flinch might have decided the whole game. I mean, Waterfall has a flinch chance, and Shuckle's also paralyzed. There are a lot of ways the Nothing Burger could have lost this, right? But that is a little bit unfortunate for them. The Shuckle almost got there, but in the end, lived up to its nickname. What a set that was. I don't know how I'm even going to do another one after this, and there's so many more, but okay. Alright, we've got... Alright, locking in here. The Yosemite Yolteons taking on the Sinister Hand, the other Sand Rush duo, Tyranitar. Is this the one that can Mega Evolve? I don't remember. And I think it is. And Stoutland. Oh, maybe it's not, because they have Mega Mawile, but Tyranitar could be their second Mega. I don't remember. It's still pretty early in the season. We have the Suicune that went crazy last week. I actually, personally, did most of the stat collecting for Pool A last week, and Suicune was the week MVP in plus minus. Sole MVP, 7 KOs without ever being knocked out itself. And here it is again, with Chandelure and Clefable. Against the Yolteons, bringing... The Ditto looks super fun here, because if they can copy Mega Mawile, or get their own Suicune would actually go crazy into Tyranitar, Chandelure, Mawile. Ditto turning into Suicune would be super powerful here. Gyarados is also very good into those Pokemon. It can intimidate Mawile. It is weak to Rock, but it can intimidate Mawile, Tyranitar, Stoutland, offensively threaten Chandelure. Breloom is a little bit trickier. It's good into the Sand guys, but... Oh, also Stoutland could have Intimidate instead of Sand Rush, but also Mawile and Chandelure are pretty threatening into Breloom. But yeah, I could see a Gyarados game plan working out pretty well for the Yolteons here. Maybe with Mega Gengar helping to create some openings for it by trapping threats on the field. And if the Ditto turns into Suicune, that actually could be super strong for them. Or even situationally, like if the Ditto turns into Chandelure against Mega Mawile, or Mega Mawile against Tyranitar and Stoutland, I think Ditto has real potential to go crazy here. Let's see. We get Tyranitar and Stoutland leading right away against Raichu and Gyarados. Intimidate on the Gyarados. No Intimidate on the Stoutland, so probably Sand Rush. Stoutland will protect turn 1. As will Tyranitar, so both able to avoid a Fake Out from Raichu, which goes into Tyranitar. And Gyarados setting up right away with Dragon Dance. Makes sense. I think Dragon Dance Gyarados is pretty threatening in this matchup. Tyranitar does Mega Evolve, that answers that question. And we see After You from the Stoutland. Wait, that's a great tech. Oh, Stoutland gets After You. Okay. Good to know. So that means Tyranitar, effectively, at the cost of Stoutland's action, Tyranitar gets to move with the Sand Rush boosted speed. And it gets this Rock Slide before Gyarados can do anything. Doesn't get the KO, but it does a lot of damage. No flinch. Tyranitar, Mega Tyranitar also bulkier than regular Tyranitar. Using that Mega Evolution not only to get the big Rock Slide damage, and it would have put them way ahead if it had flinched, but it also survives a Waterfall after that. Raichu Volt Switch goes not into Tyranitar, but into Stoutland, chips it a little bit, brings Hydreigon onto the field. Stoutland still has a massive speed advantage with that Sand Rush. Gyarados protects. It's After You, Rock Slide again. Doesn't do that much to Hydreigon, but it does get flinch. Gyarados is still in trouble here because it's outsped by the Stoutland. After You, Rock Slide, Breloom switching in. It misses Hydreigon. Breloom doesn't take too much. Hydreigon takes out Tyranitar with an Earth Power. Breloom may be able to regain some control in this game with Tyranitar removed and Stoutland kind of threatened by it. But if it's Mawile or Chandelure in the back, then the Sinister Hand can just keep the pressure still going. Actually, Chandelure is a little bit weak into Hydreigon, and Mawile has to worry about coverage like Earth Power. But there are ways. But actually, Clefable is a safer bring here, right? Because it's not super threatened by either of these, and it can hit them back hard. So this does make more sense than either of those options, I think, actually. Stoutland will drop to a Mach Punch from Breloom as Hydreigon protects and avoids Moonblast. So good turn by the Yolteons as they get through the last turn of Sand. Now the Chandelure comes in. It's Follow Me from Clefable, redirecting a Dark Pulse that would have done a lot to Chandelure with that crit. Instead it does like a decent amount to Clefable with that crit. Gives Chandelure an opening to set Trick Room. Hydreigon protecting again, avoiding a Moonblast. Able to sit on the field against this Fairy type for quite a while so far as Breloom drops to a Heat Wave. Now Hydreigon still has a teammate. Actually, that was the first KO on the Yolteon side, never mind. They've done pretty well preserving their Pokemon, actually, so far. Raichu coming in here. Raichu can fake out the Clefable. Clefable will protect around that pressure. Chandelure protects as well. But yeah, that makes sense. Raichu could fake out the Clefable and create an opening for Hydreigon to attack the Chandelure. The double protect from the Sinister Hand burns a turn of their own Trick Room, but it does safely play around that possibility. Now Hydreigon protecting on a Moonblast again. Raichu, will it get knocked out by this Heat Wave? It will not. It gets a chance to nuzzle Chandelure. Interesting. Fishing for full paras, I guess. And Hydreigon... Hydreigon may be seen as the win con here. Switching out to Gyarados, so sacking Gyarados to get Hydreigon in. I know how Hydreigon beats Chandelure. I'm not 100% sure how it beats Clefable, but maybe with Raichu outside of Trick Room it can do it. But Heat Wave will take out the Raichu, not the Gyarados actually. Gyarados survives, but then drops to a Moonblast with the least necessary crit I've ever seen in my life. So sacking Gyarados to preserve Hydreigon is one thing, but I don't know how Hydreigon can win this without Raichu. Let's see if there's a way. Earth Power into Clefable, not enough damage. Drops to a Moonblast. It protected around and switched around so many Moonblasts over so many turns, but in the end, the Fairy still gets it. And so the Sinister hand, I mean, all things considered, the Yolteons did a pretty good job of trying to play around this sustained pressure from the Sinister hand, but the pressure was too much in the end. The after-use Stoutland was a super fun tech to see with the Rock Slide Mega Tyranitar. Again, getting that higher base power and also that greater bulk so that it could take a hit when it didn't get the flinch. It would have been even further ahead with the flinch, but the after-you Rock Slide into the Gyarados did crazy work regardless. And then they had this Trick Room mode in the back, able to close out the game. Very solid first game. The Yolteons played this well, but they just didn't have the tools to break through. And we'll see what they bring to game 2. The Gengar... As far as adjustments go, the Gengar is tricky to bring here, right? Because it's so weak to Tyranitar. And if Stoutland shows up again, Gengar's kind of a sitting duck. Gengar also has trouble beating the duo of Clefable and Chandelure. But I think the Ditto could still be super interesting. Let's see if they bring it here in game 2. Chandelure and Clefable leading this time against Raichu and Breloom. Clefable protecting. Does get around the fake out. And it's Spore to Chandelure, but it's Safety Goggles. The Yolteons trying to deny the Trick Room, knowing they have the fake out pressure into Clefable, so it can't redirect the Spore. That would have worked, if not for Safety Goggles Chandelure. But it does get to show that item now. Avoid falling asleep, and set the Trick Room. And now Clefable can throw off a Moonblast into Raichu. Does not a ton of damage, but does get the special attack drop. Breloom dodging a Heat Wave could be big here. Raichu surviving that as well. We get the Spore into Clefable. So if something like Hydreigon comes in here, it's a lot better position than it was last time. Instead it's Gyarados. That's also better positioned with Clefable asleep than not. But now Mawile can switch in. It hasn't Mega Evolved yet, and it intimidates both of these physical attackers. Breloom switching out immediately, though. We see Ditto come in after all and turn into Chandelure. I wonder whether this is Flash Fire Chandelure. I guess if it is, that's kind of silly on both sides, because it powers up the Ditto, but the Ditto will do the same thing if it Heat Waves back. But it could be worth it anyway to take out the Mawile. And you have Gyarados pressuring Chandelure. The Trick Room turns are gradually ticking down. Chandelure will switch out here without giving a possible Flash Fire boost to Ditto. We see the Clefable come in. And then Mawile Mega Evolves. Sucker Punches Ditto, knocks it out with a crit. I have no idea whether that crit mattered, but I was looking for that big Heat Wave into Mawile, and we are not going to get it, as Ditto is just wiped out by that Sucker Punch. Mega Mawile's strong. Don't know if the crit mattered. Clefable still asleep, but not taking too much damage from the Waterfall. Mawile will flinch on this last turn of Trick Room. Clefable will remain asleep. Gyarados getting a Dragon Dance, offsetting the Intimidate, and setting up for the end of Trick Room right now. But another fake out from the Mawile takes out the Raichu. Gyarados going for another Dragon Dance. Clefable staying asleep. Can Gyarados pull this one back? Maybe with Breloom supporting it, clicking Spore into Clefable if that wakes up again or something. Spore into Mawile even. It's not like you can Sucker Punch around that. Mawile will protect here probably to avoid that. The Gyarados going for a third Dragon Dance, really trying to turn itself into the sweeper that can pull this difficult game back. Clefable taking a third turn of sleep. Now it wakes up, it gets to protect. I wouldn't be shocked if they targeted a Spore into Clefable, so that could be a pretty valuable protect. Mawile Sucker Punch does a lot of damage to Gyarados, but is not a one-shot. But neither is Waterfall back, and Clefable does avoid a Spore with that protect. So close for the Yolteons, but it looks like they might not get there. Breloom changing its plan here, trying to take out the Mawile with a Mach Punch while Gyarados avoids the Sucker Punch, but the Sinister Hand probably reading that. Redirect the Mach Punch into Clefable. Mawile attacks and protect, but that's fine. I guess they were just covering for Gyarados not protecting there. Another Mach Punch, redirected again into Clefable. But no sucker, but the Sucker Punch fails. Is Gyarados going for another Dragon Dance to get around the Sucker Punch? Oh, it's a crazy Sucker Punch mind game. It is another Dragon Dance, but what does Gyarados do now? Honestly, the tempting thing to do here if you're the Yolteons is protect Gyarados and Spore Clefable. Right? So that it can't redirect your Mach Punch on the next turn. But if they read that and like protect Clefable, play rough Breloom or something, then you're kind of just sunk. But I don't know. I think if I'm in their position, I probably feel like I have to try that. Protect. Follow me. It's Mach Punch again. It crits! But it still doesn't KO. The Clefable holds on at like 1 HP. What did Mawile go for? It was Iron Head into Gyarados. They could have spored Clefable. They almost knocked it out anyway with a Mach Punch crit. This has got to be so frustrating if you're the Yolteons coach. Follow me. Mach Punch. But what does Gyarados go for? Is it Dragon Dance again? It's Dragon Dance again, but Mawile didn't go for Sucker Punch. Iron Head takes out Gyarados. Chandelure's back. Breloom is all alone. Mach Punch will finally take out the Mawile, but Mawile has done its job. Breloom dodges a Heat Wave. They still have Tyranitar. Sure, why not? It avoids a Mach Punch with a Protect. Chandelure, knowing that it doesn't have to risk more Heat Wave misses, as we see that the Shadow Ball's a 2-hit KO. Breloom can't put it to sleep because of the safety goggles. Breloom drops to another Shadow Ball. That is a tough result there for the Yolteons. I think they played both games pretty well, and their prep was really solid, but the Sinister hand showing itself once again to be one of the teams to beat this season, that's for sure. The mind games are so tricky in that Gyarados, Breloom, Clefable, Mawile middle game. I can't really fault either coach. It's a tough situation, and the Dragon Dance Gyarados playing around the Sucker Punch was pretty exciting, but once the Clefable had spammed Follow Me a bunch of turns, I mean, there's no risk-free move to make there, right? If you Spore the Clefable, maybe it does blow up in your face. I can Monday morning quarterback this and say, well, it would have worked because the replay shows me that, but yeah, they had outs and they just didn't find the right ones, but it's a super tough position. Well-deserved win by the Sinister hand, and the Yolteons will definitely be back just as strong in future weeks, so should still be a fun season for them. But that one's got to sting a bit. Now we have the Westwego Whiscash taking on the cooler Dreamyard Darkrai's. I think this is the last one in Pool A for this week. And I think I know a little bit about what happens here, again from the Discord, but the Darkrai's... I just said Dreamyard Darkrai's. The cooler London Vespiquens. There we go. Did I get it now? They have Kangaskhan. They have 2 Follow Me users. They have Purloin and Liepard, which can both do the Thunder Wave, Swagger, whatever you want. I have a suspicion they're here to do something else based on what I saw in the Discord, but we'll find out. And I have a suspicion as to what Dewotts for, based on what I saw in the Discord, but we'll find out. On the Whiscash side, we got Metagross. Is that Mega Metagross? I think it is. Yeah, they have the physical offense trio of Mega Metagross, Landorus, and Terrakion. Looking to overwhelm their opponents, and looks like it should match up reasonably well into a Mega Kangaskhan game plan, right? Because they can intimidate it with Landorus, threaten big fighting type damage with Terrakion, take normal type hits with Mega Metagross. Like, all of those individually match up reasonably well into Kangaskhan, so it's probably pretty hard for the Vespiquens to overcome that, given that Kangaskhan is like their whole offense here. Sneasel is interesting because it probably gets beat up in this generation. I think probably gets beat up in every generation where it appears, and so it can get the justified boost on Terrakion. They have Illumise to give them some speed control potentially. Porygon 2 can also do that under different circumstances, so if there's a bunch of Thunder Wave spam, while Landorus is immune to the Thunder Wave, but also you make Terrakion and Metagross slower, maybe Porygon 2 sets up Trick Room on you. So to me, this matchup looks pretty favorable for the Whiscash. They have a lot of threats that I think are going to be hard for Mega Kangaskhan to overcome, but let's see what the cooler London Vespiquens have up their sleeve. It's Purloin, it's Liepard, it's Sneasel, it's Terrakion. No beat up, just Ice Shard into Purloin. An assist on the Liepard draws foul play from, what, the Purloin? It crits the Sneasel. It actually does a lot of damage. Brachion, Rock Slide, Chaos, Purloin. And it does a lot of damage to Liepard. And now Dewotts is on the field. So what I think happened here, based on what I read in the Discord, is they tried to use Dive Cats in Gen 6. Dive Cats is a Gen 5 strategy. I featured it on my channel once when I played VGC 2013 for like one video. And I know Wolf Glick has made content explaining how it works. The gist is this. Assist is a move commonly used by cat-like Pokemon that... its basic effect is it uses a random move known by another member of the party. But there are some moves that Assist is unable to call. There's a list that you can look up of what moves cannot be used with Assist. So the way a Dive Cats team works is you run Prankster Liepard, Prankster Purloin. You engineer the rest of your team so that there are no other moves, that something knows Dive, and there are no other moves on your team that can be called by Assist. Because Assist is a status move, it's priority boosted by Prankster. Dive, being an attack, is not priority boosted by Prankster, and because it's a 2-turn attack, the way it works is you use Assist with priority, your Pokemon goes underwater, it becomes semi-invulnerable. Most of the time your opponent won't have anything to hit it. And then on the next turn, Dive no longer benefits from the boosted priority, and so you're a faster opponent. I think you run speed-lowering items on your cats as well for this reason. So your opponent's Pokemon will probably be faster, and they can make their moves, but they still can't hit the cat, and then the cat comes up, and the Dive does, like, no damage. But the point is, between the priority turn 1 and the slowness turn 2, it's very hard for your opponent to ever be able to do damage to your cats, and then you just play the timer. And because you can do a little bit of chip damage with Dive, you win when it's executed properly. And Dive Cats was a pretty frustrating strategy in Gen 5 VGC, and so Game Freak nerfed it by making Assist unable to call Dive, or moves like it, like Fly and Dig, after that generation. I believe, and this is what people were saying in the Discord after this set, Dive Cats just doesn't work in Gen 6. Also, the Assist there called Foul Play, so I think they goofed on building the rest of the team out of moves that it can't call anyway. But, that is pretty unfortunate for the Vespiquens. My guess is they drafted Purloin, Liepard, and Dewotts to use in this strategy, and now they're finding out that it doesn't work at all. We'll see how the rest of this game plays out. Landorus showed up at some point. Foul Play doesn't do a whole lot. Rock Slide takes out Liepard. It's Helmet Landorus. Sure enough, we see the Dewotts use Dive. Little avoid a Rock Slide. Togekiss will get chipped by that. And a knockoff, which also removes its Eviolite. Oh, it didn't use Dive, it used Dig. I just assumed it was Dive, because it's a water type and because it's Dive Cats. Oh no, but that's even worse, because Landorus is a flying type, so it's immune to Dig. And it would still be immune to Dig if a Liepard called it. I mean, I guess Dig could still chip Terrakion and you could still win on timer. But... oh no, it's... Dive Cats doesn't work, and also it's not even Dive. Ugh. Oh, and then, yeah, in the chat, this makes sense too. Still is reserved. I assumed Ice Shard was here to deal with that. So, because Ice Shard on the Sneasel has priority, from the get-go, they were able to do damage before the cats got their thing going, right? Ice Shard is the same priority as a neutral priority move boosted by Prankster, which Assist would be. And because the Dive Cats run speed-lowering items so that they can be slow on the second turn, and their whole thing is avoid taking any damage at all and play the timer, the Vespiquens coach here is right. The Ice Shard also was a problem for that game plan, even if mechanically it actually worked. Goodbye, Choice Band Dewotts, locked into Dig against Landorus. Pretty one-sided win there for the Whiscash, but we do still have a game 2 here. Can Mega Kangaskhan put the team on its back? Let's see. It is Kangaskhan and Togetic against Porygon 2 and Metagross. The Dewotts perhaps anticipating the switch to a Kangaskhan game plan here and going for the Trick Room. We'll see. Kangaskhan Mega Evolves. Metagross does not. Follow Me from the Togetic redirects a Bullet Punch. It doesn't do that much, actually, in the EV Light Togetic. Kangaskhan going for the Power Up Punch, getting those 2 attack boosts with Parental Bond. Still not doing a whole lot of damage to the Porygon 2, though. It's not a super strong attack. And Porygon 2 not going for Trick Room, instead going for Icy Wind for its speed control. And then switching out. Terrakion will switch in here. Metagross will Mega Evolve. Togetic still takes a Bullet Punch after the Mega. This is a little more efficient if Metagross would Mega Evolve turn 1, but it's probably fine. And I guess Kangaskhan... Well, Kangaskhan could have tried to Sucker Punch either slot, right? It wouldn't work either way because the Porygon 2 switched and didn't attack. And the more likely target, the Metagross, is faster and also went for a +1 priority move. So Sucker Punch doesn't work if their attack is executed before yours. So the speed drop on Kangaskhan... Mega Metagross is faster. Oh, but Mega Metagross is faster than Mega Kangaskhan anyway, but Metagross only Mega Evolved this turn. So probably the speed drop, making the Sucker Punch kind of useless there. Not too much punishment for Togetic having survived the Bullet Punch. Togetic goes for Mirror Move. I guess trying to copy something from the Porygon 2 that didn't come out here. I don't know all the nuances of how that move works. Oh man, oh, what a series we play here. This is Gen 6, this is 2015, and there's so many complicated interactions already. Okay, Liepard's here. Takes a lot from a Bullet Punch. Sucker Punch does go into the Terrakion, but of course that'll give it a justified boost. That'll give it 2 justified boosts because of the Parental Bond. It brings Terrakion to +2 attack. Terrakion knocks out Kangaskhan. Burret's here. Fake Out will flinch the Metagross. +2 Terrakion can just go for Rock Slide or something if it wants. It does just go for Rock Slide. It misses Liepard. It knocks Furret down to an invisible Focus Sash. Wow. And then it gets knocked out by Grass Knot. It's Life Orb Furret. Life Orb Furret survives the +2 Rock Slide and takes Terrakion out with a Grass Knot. Oh, so Terrakion being gifted 2 attack boosts by the Kangaskhan doesn't hurt them too terribly much. But they still have to deal with the Metagross, and now Porygon 2 is back, and these 2 Pokemon are both low. Bullet Punch crit didn't matter. Takes out the Liepard, and Porygon 2 gets the last KO with Icy Wind into the Togetic, just as we were all expecting when we saw the matchup at preview. Okay, I think that's it for Pool A, and I think I need to rest a little bit before Pool B. That certainly was some Pokemon that was just played. Wow. Okay, Pool B. We start with the Elegancy taking on the Salt Lake City Toxic. The Toxic brought the Shuckle, but not the Chansey, so that's interesting. I wonder what they're cooking with that Pokemon. We also do see the duo of Whimsicott and Terrakion. We see some possible Trick Room threats. Who's to say what's going to happen? On the Elegancy side, actually Trapinch could be kind of a funny anti-Trick Room Pokemon. So could Amoonguss, of course. We see Mega Mawile, Goodra, Starmie, possible Murkrow Tailwind. I think Murkrow gets Tailwind. We might have even seen that last week, I forgot. I think we did. I don't know, let's see what's happening here. Okay, Amoonguss and Starmie against Slowbro and Whimsicott. Huh. Slow grass, fast water on one side, fast grass, slow water on the other side. I guess both fairly flexible leads where they can adjust to whatever the opponent throws at them. Let's see what they each do now. Slowbro Mega Evolves. Forgot it's Mega Slowbro. But it immediately takes a lot from a Thunder from the Starmie, so that's a good tech there. That did, oh, just a tiny bit less than half. But who knows the rolls there. Maybe these coaches do, but I don't. Anyway, we see Sludge Bomb crit, probably not necessary into the Whimsicott, but it survives with the Focus Sash anyway, doesn't get poisoned. Slowbro goes for Calm Mind. Is Whimsicott going to set... oh, Whimsicott already moved this turn. It Moonblasted the Starmie. I forgot. For a second I was thinking, is Whimsicott going to set Trick Room? But it already moved. Okay, we see the Mawile now. Intimidate doesn't matter too much here, but Mawile takes a Moonblast reasonably well. Slowbro recovering with the Slack off, so not too bothered about having taken a Thunder after all, but it does get put to sleep by Espurr. And now on the next turn we see Whimsicott go for Tailwind, so it's Slowbro and Tailwind, which is pretty counterintuitive, but I mean, these are not very fast Pokemon on the other side. Sludge Bomb does not very much to the Slowbro, but it does stay asleep for this turn. We see Terrakion switch in on an Iron Head, but Mawile is not Mega Evolved, so it does a lot less damage than it would if it had. Slowbro is still sitting pretty comfortably here. It's not going to take much from an Iron Head, even if one is targeted into it. It's not taking a lot from the Sludge Bomb either. Looks like this Amoonguss probably doesn't have Giga Drain. We see Protect on the Terrakion. We see Goodra switch in. Protect on Amoonguss as Slowbro wakes up and scalds the Goodra for very little damage, but it does get the burn. And so that damage is going to add up over time. Also, we don't know this Goodra's moves. It could be physical, and the burn could be even more of a problem for it then. Terrakion finally gets to click a Rock Slide in Tailwind, although it's faster than these Pokemon anyway. It chips him some. We see a Citrus Berry on the Goodra. We see Infestation trapping Slowbro on the field and doing some passive damage, but not a lot of damage otherwise. As Slowbro goes for a second Calm Mind there, Tailwind will end here. But yeah, the Terrakion's still faster. Crits the Amoonguss with a Rock Slide. Goodra showing the rest, so it's able to get its HP back and get rid of the burn at the cost of falling asleep. Slowbro is still keeping itself healthy with the Slack off. We could be in for a bit of a long one here, but let's see. That Amoonguss is getting worn down by these Rock Slides. It also flinches this turn. Scald into Goodra. It did some respectable damage at +2, actually. But now Rock Slide will take out the Amoonguss. The Goodra narrowly survives, but is still asleep and will probably drop to this next Scald. So, okay, the Toxic breaking through more quickly than I started to fear they might. But now the Starmie is back, and we know that Thunder does a lot. We know that Mawile could be a giant threat, especially if it actually Mega Evolves now. Terrakion switches out to Gourgeist, which reveals the Rindo Berry on the Starmie. So it's covering for Grass-type attacks. Probably not a whole lot of... Well, actually, it might have to worry about those from Gourgeist, but of course it's also weak to Ghost. Mawile, of course, is required to have the Mawilite. It does finally Mega Evolve now. I don't know why it didn't do that earlier. Maybe they... Oh, they might have avoided Mega Evolving the Mawile until now, just for the possibility of using Intimidate again. So now it Mega Evolves when they can't switch it out anymore. I don't think they're really going to benefit from that in this game, because they didn't ever use a second Intimidate, but that does make sense as a reason to wait until now. Play Rough does some damage to Slowbro. It's at +2 now, so I doubt it's in range of Thunder. It crits back with Scald and takes out the Mawile. Thunder misses anyway. Also, they Psychic to the Gourgeist last turn instead of going for it. Seed Bomb into Starmie, crits, and knocks it out through the Rindo Berry. And the Toxic take game 1 pretty convincingly, with the Slowbro taking a lot of damage on the very first turn, but never broken in the end by the Elegancy. So let's see what the Elegancy have for it in game 2. If they have Taunt on like the Murkrow or the Mawile or something, or they can make Slowbro fall asleep for a while. Some kind of adjustment like that could work out for them. Also, I don't know, maybe it's like Power Whip Goodra and it doesn't get burned this time, but I don't know, that would still not sure how hard that would hit, considering the Slack off. They lead Mawile and Amoonguss this time against Terrakion and Whimsicott, so it is just the Terracotta stuff from the Toxic. Mawile will Mega Evolve immediately this time. -1 Terrakion just goes to the Rock Slide anyway. Misses the Mawile. Chips the Amoonguss. Whimsicott goes for Beat Up, but is slower than Terrakion, so the Rock Slide did come out before the boost. I don't know if that... I don't know if they intended to EV their Pokemon that way, but that is what happened. And Terrakion just drops to an Iron Head immediately. And Whimsicott gets hit by a Sludge Bomb. No flinch on the Amoonguss. So yeah, the only Rock Slide came out before the Beat Up. My honest guess is that probably is a mistake with the EVs or something on this team, but I don't know. Maybe they set their speeds intentionally for some other reason. But a pretty unfortunate start to this one for the Toxic. However, the Slowbro is back, and the Elegancy were unable to break through it in game 1. So let's see if we can pull this back for them. It Mega Evolves. Moonblast into Mawile doesn't do a whole lot. Play Rough does some good damage to the Slowbro. The nice thing about Mawile threatening big physical damage here, of course, is that Calm Mind doesn't reduce it over time. So the Play Rough is a 3-hit KO, but it'll consistently keep doing that same kind of damage. And if they can put the Slowbro to sleep, then that should put them in a pretty strong position. Amoonguss uses this turn, though, to knock out the Whimsicott. Now Gourgeist is back. We see Rocky Helmet on Amoonguss. Slowbro's getting hit hard by that play rough. It can slack off here to make itself healthy, except it actually can't because it gets put to sleep by Spore first. But also, every time I click slack off, it's not clicking Calm Mind or Scald. So now we see the Gourgeist worn down here. Well, worn down by Sludge Bomb, then knocked out by a Sucker Punch. But yeah, the Spore into Slowbro, denying the slack off there. The Slowbro was under my point that I was making was the Slowbro was under a lot of pressure, even if it doesn't get Spored there. And so, genuinely, it kind of feels like the difference in this set so far is that the Mawile took a long time to Mega Evolve in Game 1, and that weakened its damage output. But in Game 2, it just Mega Evolved early and swept. And then dodging a Rock Slide that was at -1 anyway. Also somewhat helpful there, but how much does Mawile take from Rock Slide? So, we've seen one Mega Pokemon dominate Game 1. We've seen the other side's Mega dominate Game 2. The Elegancy look like they have a pretty strong answer to Slowbro after all with the duo of Mega Mawile and Amoonguss. And now it's time to see how the Toxic can break that. Mawile leads with Amoonguss against Slowbro and Whimsicott. These Pokemon don't care about being intimidated. Slowbro will Mega Evolve right away. Mawile will not. Tailwind goes up. Whimsicott takes an Iron Head with the Focus Sash it would anyway. Amoonguss still outspeeds the Slowbro and gets the Spore. Turn 1. Now Whimsicott switches out to Gourgeist. We know these items already. Slowbro staying asleep. Takes a play rough, but it does take that a lot better when Mawile is not Mega Evolved. So we'll see whether the Elegancy are giving a bit of a gift to their opponent again by, I think, preserving the Intimidate for future use when the immediate damage might be more valuable. That didn't work out well for them in Game 1, but we'll see what they're cooking this time. Gourgeist gets chipped down a bit by Sludge Bomb. Now the Mawile Mega Evolves. Not saving that Intimidate anymore. That play rough does a lot more to Slowbro. Slowbro staying asleep is... Oh! Right. The Toxic got kind of boomed by non-dynamic speed, and I kind of did too until commentary. In commentary. Slowbro moved after Amoonguss because this was the same turn that Tailwind went up, so the turn order was already set. Slowbro wouldn't benefit from the Tailwind until the next turn. Now it's moving before Amoonguss, but it's staying asleep, so... We're at full 3 sleep turns. If that's still the same in this generation, it might not be. And Slowbro is taking damage with no opportunity to heal itself or hit back. Gourgeist going for the Phantom Force. Yeah, that happened. I don't know. Slowbro heals itself. So the Tailwind is giving Slowbro some initiative here, but it's still under a lot of pressure. And yeah, the fact that it took a long nap because it was still slower than Amoonguss on that first turn of Tailwind. Once again, non-dynamic speed, kind of a problem for everyone in this league who's not used to it anymore. Slowbro switches out. Whimsicott dodges a play rough anyway, but then drops to a Sludge Bomb. But Slowbro's kind of low. Terraqueon's back, though. Mawile protecting here. On a Sacred Sword. Golden opportunity. The Protect will be broken by the Phantom Force, but Terraqueon's attack has already been stopped. Phantom Force, I was going to say it doesn't do that much. It actually does a fair bit, but it doesn't KO. And golden opportunity here for Amoonguss to put Terraqueon to sleep, unless it has Goggles. Which it doesn't. Sucker Punch takes out the Gourgeist, so missing that KO on Mawile is pretty big. Sludge Bomb's not going to do a whole lot to Terraqueon, but now we got low HP Slowbro and sleeping Terraqueon. If Terraqueon takes a shorter nap than Slowbro did, never mind. It stays asleep in one more turn, and it gets knocked out by an Iron Head. Slowbro will slack off here. Is it a speed tie between Amoonguss and Slowbro? Outside of Tailwind? Because Amoonguss went first last game, right? They do have the same base speed. I think they're speed tying. This might have come up in the Discord too, I don't remember. So not only did Amoonguss get to stall the Slowbro setup early in this game because the Tailwind boost hadn't kicked in yet, but it also won a speed tie in the process. That's pretty unfortunate for the Toxic. Slowbro takes another nap. Mawile and Amoonguss are pretty free to wear it down now, but again, if it clicks Slack off to heal itself, which it won't get to do because it's staying asleep, it's still not putting out any pressure back. And so the Slowbro was able to win Game 1, I think largely because the Mawile took a long time to Mega Evolve in that one. But Mawile absolutely dominant in the other 2 games, really showing what's one of the stronger Mega Pokemon, and the Elegancy take this one. Next we have the Foggy Fearows taking on Genie Incarnate. The Fearows sure have some pink Pokemon with big prominent wings or fins on the left side of their lineup here. But what are they doing with these Pokemon? Do they also have Mega Lucario and Mega Salamence? I don't remember. Yeah, maybe we'll find out. But they have some plausible strong attackers there. Salamence looks super strong into this team from Genie Incarnate, except the Bronzong, and they have Infernape to help deal with that. You can support the Salamence, especially if it is Mega Salamence, which I just don't remember at this point in the season. You can support it with Clefairy, make it hard to remove. Alomomola can help with that to an extent as well. And then Reuniclus gives them, what, a Trick Room option? I guess, if their opponent's going for something fast with like Gengar or Quiver Dance, Volcarona, or Crocodile, depending on its set. Genie Incarnate, on the other hand, Mega Gengar is interesting here because maybe it can remove the Clefairy and... Is it Mega Gengar? But it's got to be Mega Camerupt, right? But if they're both Mega, and again, I'm sorry, I just don't remember everyone's Megas this early in the season. Yeah, if they can remove the Clefairy and then have other answers to the Salamence, that could be pretty important to this matchup. But it is kind of hard for them to break through Alomomola, actually, as well. They have a clear Trick Room mode with Bronzong and Camerupt. They have a few different ways they can play this, so let's jump in and see what happens. Manshao leads with Bronzong, so that looks like a Trick Room setup, against Alomomola and Salamence. We see the Intimidate from the Salamence, and then a Protect. Avoiding a Fake Out, which should free Bronzong to click Trick Room if it wants. Bronzong takes a lot from a Knockoff, which removes a Mental Herb, so we know that Bronzong has that item to deny an opponent's Taunt. But there's no Taunt here, and just not enough damage into Bronzong, so although it takes a lot from the Knockoff, it does get the Trick Room set up. And then it goes for Sunny Day. Takes another Knockoff because that's no longer boosted by removing an item. Salamence is actually slower than Manshao, or they're tying, but Salamence moves first anyway. Knocked it down to a Sash with the Draco Meteor. The Manshao U turns out. Not very useful in Trick Room, trying to get Camerupt in. That makes sense, actually. Super fast Manshao means exactly that. You can set the Trick Room, and then you can use it to safely get Camerupt in on the next turn, right? Because it moved last here. There's no risk that Camerupt will come in on an attack. Now Camerupt is free to Mega Evolve. Salamence will protect here. But Camerupt is... I was going to say it's kind of vulnerable in this position against these two. These are not great targets for Camerupt to see. It does show Solar Beam into Alomomola, so the Sunny Day setup makes perfect sense here. But Alomomola, very tanky, does survive it. Salamence survives a Psychic from Bronzong. Camerupt in Sun, though, does take a Waterfall back from Alomomola. So the Sun putting in a lot of work for Genie Incarnate here. We see the Infernape switch in. Heat Wave does a lot of damage to both of these Pokemon, but doesn't knock anything out. But Infernape does also come in on a Psychic, so it's knocked out by that. Bronzong drops to a Fire Blast. That means Camerupt is free to attack again, but there's only one Trick Room turn left. Crocodile comes in next to it. Alomomola is back with Regenerator. It's actually gotten pretty healthy again, though I don't think it takes a Solar Beam. But perhaps trying to bait the Solar Beam, it switches out to Lucario. Genie Incarnate do take the bait. Lucario doesn't take too much from the Solar Beam. Salamence narrowly survives a Rock Tomb from the Crocodile. Rock Tomb is an interesting tech here because Trick Room is about to end, and now Salamence will have its speed lowered when Speed Order returns to normal, so it's vulnerable to the Crocodile. Probably not the Camerupt, because Mega Camerupt is just that slow, but Lucario is probably a problem for Crocodile. Well, I don't know. Let's see what happens. Oh, Salamence still gets to move this turn, and it shows Hydro Pump, which, thanks to the Sun, narrowly misses the KO into Mega Camerupt. But Camerupt's got to be pretty vulnerable now that Trick Room is over. We do see the Lucario Mega Evolve. Camerupt will protect, but close combat will take out Crocodile. Sun is over. Not that it makes much difference at this point. Camerupt, yeah, it does look like kind of a sitting duck, but we do see the Manshao still come in, only to drop to a Bullet Punch from Lucario. Draco Meteor takes out the Camerupt. The Fearows pretty convincingly take game one, thanks in large part to Alomomola being just so tanky and getting them out of that Trick Room that was so well set up by Genie Incarnate. So let's see what Genie Incarnate have for game two. They definitely have some other modes available, and now that I think about it, I remember how they beat the Toxic last week. This definitely is Mega Gengar, so they don't have to commit to the Mega Camerupt here. There's still multiple ways they can attack, but let's see. Crocodile leads with Gengar against Lucario and Reuniclus. Interesting. Is it the Fearows that will go for Trick Room this time? Let's see. Crocodile will just switch out to Volcarona as Gengar Mega Evolves, so you'd think Lucario is probably not in a great position against these two, but it just protects through this turn, so does Reuniclus. Lucario and Reuniclus now both unable to switch out as well, unless they have, unless they're holding Shed Shell, which I'm not sure is an item that anyone else has even thought about this season yet. It just came to mind right now that it exists. They probably can't switch out. Also, Lucario has to be holding its Mega Stone. It does Mega Evolve here. Reuniclus, not quite knocked out by a Shadow Ball, drops the Invisible Focus Sash. Lucario just goes for a close combat, though, into Volcarona. Wonder what they were anticipating that they might do with that. But Volcarona takes it just fine. Throws off a Heat Wave. Neither of these Pokemon was able to switch out. Maybe Lucario just didn't have anything else to hit hard with here. But I feel like even just like Bullet Punch into Gengar is more useful. I don't know. Maybe they thought there was a switch. No idea. They lose 2 Pokemon that they were unable to switch out. Salamence and Alomomola are here now, but they're not as well positioned as they were last game against Mega Gengar. Volcarona switches out now to Mienshao. As Salamence just protects. It's a Waterfall to Mienshao. It actually does a lot. But Salamence will it'll survive a Sludge Bomb, and Alomomola showing the Assault Vest, which is why I took that Solar Beam well enough last game. We'll get chipped by a knockoff. Hydro Pump crits the Gengar. Hydro Pump is interesting there because it hits, if anything switches in, it hits hard into them. But I don't know that the Gengar is really pressured to switch. I wonder what Draco Meteor would have done if it got that crit. But anyway. Or is Salamence choice, and have I just not noticed? No, I don't think so. I think it switched moves last game. Anyway, Waterfall takes out the Mienshao. But now Crocodile's back. I guess Intimidate doesn't matter to Salamence because he's clearly running a special set, but Alomomola is running physical attacks, so it's actually not thrilled to be intimidated here. Gengar protects, so does Salamence. Crocodile Rock Slide is stopped. Oh, Rock Slide, not Rock Tomb here. It was Rock Tomb last game, right? I didn't misread that. Or was it a different Pokemon that used it? Anyway. Misses the Alomomola. Knockoff goes into Protect. Salamence getting the double Protect, avoiding a Sludge Bomb. Keeping the Fearows' hopes alive here. But Alomomola is flinched by the Crocodile Rock Slide, and Salamence fails the triple Protect. Playing to their outs, but it doesn't work out for them. As Alomomola will get worn down. It will finally knock out the Gengar, but I don't think it can defeat both Volcarona. Well, dodging Heat Wave's a good start, actually. Narrowly survives a knockoff, but yeah, it just doesn't have enough damage into the Volcarona, which shows a Citrus Berry here and lands the Heat Wave the next time, delivering the win for Genie Incarnate. So Mega Gengar was a lot more convincing so far than Mega Camerupt. Let's see what they go with in Game 3. It's Crocodile and Volcarona this time, so the Mega not yet revealed against Infernape and Alomomola. Intimidating to these 2 Pokemon could be pretty good. I don't think we know much about the Infernape set. Crocodile just switches out to Mienshao. I think it's probably Mega Gengar in the back. I don't think you bring Mega Camerupt without Bronzong. Also, Mega Gengar just has looked a lot better in this set so far. Volcarona will protect here as Mienshao gets chipped by a Fake Out. Volcarona avoids a Waterfall. Infernape now switching out to Salamence, intimidating. Mienshao is the one that matters here. Alomomola takes not very much from a Fake Out, and it looks like it's a Quiver Dance Volcarona game plan this time. Be interesting to see how they beat the Salamence with that. But we just got another Quiver Dance right now. One thing is it's special Salamence, so that Hydro Pump is already going to hit only half as hard as it would without any boosts on Volcarona, right? So Volcarona has a real chance to snowball here, although the Alomomola, funnily enough, could be an issue for it with that physical Waterfall. We see the knockoff into Alomomola. We see a Hydro Pump miss the Mienshao. Interesting. Waterfall, it's Volcarona, but Alomomola is just not that strong. Volcarona doesn't take all that much from the Waterfall, and it gets a Flame Body burn, so Alomomola is really going to be in trouble now. And it looks like, I mean, I don't see right now what can stop this Volcarona. It looks like the Fearows might be in some trouble. And it shows the Giga Drain. Takes out Alomomola with that after the Assault Vest is removed. Knockoff on the Salamence removes the Ice Resist Berry, so it's not Mega Salamence. I think somebody in this pool is Mega Salamence, but I don't remember. Maybe we'll find out again. But yeah, there was no Ice-type damage for it to avoid. And that Hydro Pump is not, like I said, not doing that much anymore. Lucario's here. Lucario sure looked in Game 2 like it didn't have anything to beat Volcarona. It also gets intimidated here. Salamence switching out to Infernape. Lucario will Mega Evolve and Protect on the Heat Wave from Volcarona. Does about half to Infernape. Now Mienshao's back, able to put out that Fake Out pressure again. Volcarona gets flinched by Infernape Fake Out. Mienshao will not get the Fake Out pressure as it drops to close combat, but How does Lucario deal with Volcarona now? Also, Gengar's here. Salamence switching in. Gengar Mega evolves. That was the last chance to switch Infernape out before the Shadow Tag activated. Gengar takes the -1 Bullet Punch pretty well. Volcarona Heat Wave misses Salamence, but of course one-shots Lucario. And Salamence drops to a Sludge Bomb. And that just leaves Infernape. It fakes out the Volcarona, but it probably just loses to Gengar then, right? Yeah, knocked out by a Sludge Bomb. So, unfortunately, because I'm the other coach with Mega Camerupt, that Pokemon didn't exactly put in a ton of work in this matchup, but Genie Incarnate showing the strength of their draft, switching to their other faster mode with the Mega Gengar and the Quiver Dance Volcarona, and just picking the Fearows apart 2 games in a row. Looking like a tough opponent to beat over the rest of the season. Next, we have the Ontario Oguris taking on Pendragon United. The Oguris bring all 3 of the Cloudy Unova legendaries once again. Along with their Mega Gardevoir, so they can do Mega Gardevoir and Tailwind stuff again. That's definitely not Mega Kangaskhan. I remember that. But, I mean, it could fake out an Aegislash. I don't know if that's especially likely to be something we see here. The Gallade doesn't look very strong in this matchup. Into Nidoking, Entei... Sorry, not the Gallade, the Bisharp. Into Nidoking, Entei, Gallade. Maybe there's some situation where they needed to remove Togekiss, but I think more likely the focus here is... Well, honestly, Tailwind Mega Gardevoir doesn't look that incredible either, because Pendragon United have brought 3 Fairy Resists, and Fake Out Pressure, and possibly Wide Guard with Gallade. So if you're the Oguris, maybe you focus more on the Landorus. The Landorus looks really strong here in Tailwind. I mean, that's the offensive synergy of Gardevoir and Landorus, right? I haven't really picked up on it until now, even though it's a pretty well-known thing. Every type that resists Fairy is weak to ground, so... Now, again, there could be Wide Guard on the Pendragon United side to cover for an Earthquake, but the first 4 Pokemon that they have lined up here are all weak to ground. Even the Raichu is as well. So if I'm the Oguris, I'm probably looking at the Landorus as the most likely win con here. And still pairing that with the Tornadus is pretty strong, right? And then you can have the Thundurus in the back. And you have another ground immunity that you can click your own Earthquake next to. If it's Telepathy Gardevoir, you don't have to Mega Evolve it. You can run Landorus and 3 partners that are all immune to your own Earthquake. And Thundurus can help you remove the Togekiss. So I think I see the basic idea for the Oguris. At least that's what makes the most sense to me looking at this for the first time. On the Pendragon United side, I believe that is Mega Gallade. Mega Gallade... Oh, it's a showdown between Mega Gardevoir and Mega Gallade. That's pretty fun. But Mega Gallade into 3 flying types, one of them with Intimidate. It feels like it's going to have its work cut out for it. Honestly, the more I look at this, the more I think that a lot of this matchup will come down to how Pendragon United can deal with the Landorus. I mean, there are ways. Wide Guard, Ice Beam, Nidoking, Hidden Power Ice on something, but hey, let's find out. It's Tornadus and Gardevoir, okay, against Raichu and Nidoking. Gardevoir copies Poison Point. It's not Sheer Force Nidoking. Does it not get Sheer Force in this generation? I would think it probably does. I don't know my Gen 6 hidden abilities, though. But yeah, Poison Point. That could be fun. Both sides have access to that now. Maybe the Gardevoir is about to Mega Evolve. It probably is, but it would be funny if Raichu faked it out and got poisoned or something. It actually just switches out and gets rid of Poison Point immediately. Landorus switches in against these 2 ground weaknesses, as Tornadus just protects, probably around the Raichu fake out. Raichu goes for a Nuzzle into Gardevoir, but Landorus is immune to that, and Tornadus avoids an Ice Beam. Nidoking showing the Ice Beam. I mean, I think it was pretty likely it was going to have that, but now switching out, probably afraid of an Earthquake, and there's still no Tailwind yet from the Tornadus. Instead, it's Skydrop. Once again, we see Skydrop this week into Raichu, which funnily enough means that the Earthquake does no damage to anything because Raichu is lifted off the ground and Togekiss is immune. But I understand going for it there because they have Nidoking on the field. They might well have more ground weaknesses in the back. Skydrop doesn't do a whole lot of damage to the Raichu. It gets to click Hidden Power Ice. I assume Hidden Power Ice into Landorus. There it is. They did bring their coverage for the obvious giant threat into their team. Landorus just barely surviving the hidden power, presumably calced to take exactly that. Exactly one of those. Able to get an Earthquake. That still does nothing to Togekiss, but knocks out Raichu. But if Raichu is the only thing you lose to the Landorus, that's probably pretty good. For the Pendragon United side, you probably take those. Now... Sorry, I thought I might have heard someone knocking on the door, but I don't think I did. Okay, Togekiss at Tailwind instead of knocking out Landorus, so Landorus is able to switch out, but now Bisharp is here. In the opponent's Tailwind, facing Nidoking. Takes an Air Slash. Tornadus survives an Ice Beam. We see Life Orb on the Nidoking. That really feels like it's meant to have Sheer Force. I wonder whether that's a team sheet error. We'll get Tornadus protecting here. As Earth Power blows up the Bisharp. Because that Nidoking is also taking Life Orb damage because it doesn't have Sheer Force. Right, it wouldn't be taking that otherwise. We see the Gardevoir come in. The Gardevoir... Okay, yeah, there's my answer. The Gardevoir copies Serene Grace this time. Interesting. And it Mega Evolves. We see the Skydrop again, but it's on Togekiss, which we know will take no damage from that because flying types are immune to the damage part. But that frees Gardevoir Psychic to take out Nidoking. Both sides have Tailwind up. I'm honestly not sure when that happened. But now Aegislash comes in. Pretty much the best answer to Gardevoir you could ask for. Gardevoir will just protect now. Togekiss will take nothing from the Skydrop and will knock out Tornadus. Not the most useful Skydrop ever. Gardevoir avoids an Iron Head. Landorus is back. Landorus can threaten the Aegislash with Earthquake, unless it has Shadow Sneak, and then that just KOs Landorus first. And they still have to beat Togekiss, but let's see. Gardevoir protecting here. Aegislash just going for King's Shield. Does Landorus go for Earthquake? It does. It does nothing to anything because of the Protects and the Flying typing, and Togekiss is free to knock out Landorus or just set Tailwind. That works as well. Now Landorus can't threaten Aegislash because Togekiss can knock it out first. And Gardevoir definitely just loses to that Iron Head. So, pretty solid game from Pendragon United, showing the Ice Beam and the Hidden Power Ice. At least they revealed that they have both of those things. So the Oguris can try to play around that with the Landorus in future games. But yeah, the Landorus could just never get comfortable in this one, with the Togekiss also freely switching in on Earthquake and clicking Tailwind. So I questioned what answers they had to Landorus, and in Game 1 at least the answer was pretty solid ones. And then the Nidoking put out enough pressure as well that they could get that Aegislash, Gardevoir endgame that they wanted. No Gardevoir versus Glade on the actual field so far, and the Poison Point Nidoking was definitely a team sheet error, and it sounds like we will be seeing Sheer Force here in Game 2 if Nidoking shows up to this one. Raichu leading this time with Togekiss against Thundurus and Landorus. Tricky for the Oguris. You want Thundurus to delete the Togekiss with an electric attack, but you can't do that when they brought Raichu. That's something I should have mentioned in a preview, actually. Togekiss is one of the bigger problems for Landorus. Thundurus can help deal with it, but Raichu can give Togekiss cover from that. But then Raichu is wiped out by an Earthquake, so we'll just have to see what happens. Thundurus switching out here to Tornadus. The Oguris bringing all three. We also see Bisharps. We've seen all four of their Pokemon already. Bisharp comes in on a Fake Out, doesn't really take any damage from that. Protect on Tornadus, Protect on Togekiss, Nuzzle into the Protect, and Iron Head into the other Protect. Both coaches scouting pretty effectively here, getting a feel for what the opponent wants to do. Now the Landorus is back. That makes sense because the Landorus, first of all, it takes nothing from this Nuzzle, it doesn't get paralyzed, but also, if Bisharp gets to take out the Togekiss here, then Landorus is, you would think, pretty well positioned, except that there's still the Tailwind, right? Landorus can't just start clicking attacks immediately, but it's putting out some kind of pressure if they get rid of the Togekiss here. But Bisharp has to get through this Air Slash flinch, and it does. But we see the Babiri Berry on the Togekiss, so the first Iron Head actually does very little damage. A second one will do a lot, but good tech to get around that threat. The Togekiss is actually way better positioned than I gave it credit for, because we now know it takes one Bisharp Iron Head pretty well. And Raichu gives it cover from Thundurus, and then it's one of their strongest Pokemon into Landorus. Removing the Togekiss kind of feels like it might be the key to the set for the Oguris, but let's see what else they've got here. Thundurus comes in on a Hidden Power, takes more than half, well, approximately half, but certainly not less. but it does survive an Air Slash afterward with that electric typing. Togekiss will drop to an Iron Head here. Don't know that the crit mattered, and it is right at the end of Tailwind, so they won't get another Tailwind. Now Nidoking is here. Gets hit pretty hard by a Sucker Punch, and then the Thundurus showing Psychic actually takes out the Nidoking. That Pokemon will not get a chance to throw off those Sheer Force boosted attacks, at least in the first 2 games of this set. But Raichu still here. Hidden Power knocks out the Thundurus. But Togekiss is gone anyway. It's Tornadus and Bisharp against Aegislash and Raichu. That's interesting. Bisharp is obviously in a favorable position against Aegislash, but do they have enough to beat that and the Raichu? Let's see. Bisharp will protect here. King's Shield from Aegislash, Tailwind from Tornadus, and a Nuzzle into Bisharp. But Protect takes care of that. And now we see the power of Skydrop as, like I said, Bisharp is strong into Aegislash. The problem is if it has to deal with Raichu as well, and Tornadus is not much help with that. The Skydrop won't do much damage to Raichu, but just removing it from the field for a turn so that it can't do anything to mess with Bisharp, honestly pretty valuable here, I think. Knock off showing the Shuka Berry, the Ground Resist Berry on the Aegislash, another anti-Landorus attack, so they're actually pretty well prepared for Landorus. It turns out Landorus has not just been able to go crazy like it looked like at preview like it might, and Aegislash takes a lot of damage there. And showing no Sacred Sword into the Bisharp, instead just the Iron Head. But it can King's Shield now to get through this turn while Raichu is freed from the Skydrop, so I guess looking to preserve their most valuable resource, the Oguris switch the Bisharp out to the Landorus. They also get the Intimidate into Aegislash, which is pretty good. There is the King's Shield after all. Raichu will be freed from the Skydrop now, takes not much damage. Ooh, but another Nuzzle into the Bisharp slot, this time hitting Landorus, doing nothing. The Aegislash is consumed at Shuka Berry, so it would take a lot of damage from an Earthquake here, except it shows Wide Guard. So an Earthquake will not do any damage to anything, and that means Raichu is free to click Hidden Power Ice into Landorus, but Landorus is probably guaranteed to survive from full unless it crits. No. I guess it was a roll. Well, hey, I didn't do any of these calcs. These coaches hopefully did. I guess it was a roll. Landorus survived on like 1 HP in game 1, but this time it is just knocked out. But that gets Bisharp onto the field in a pretty good position. Actually, if you're the Oguris, you're probably better off with the Landorus being knocked out there. Because the Aegislash just went for King's Shield. It can't rely on that to protect it from another Dark-type attack here. You can Skydrop the Raichu again if you want. The Bisharp doesn't even go for knockoff here, it just goes for Sucker Punch. Oh, into Raichu. And takes that out. And the Skydrop goes into Aegislash. And because the Skydrop finishes before... Wait, that's super cool. Tornadus is the fastest Pokemon on the field, so Skydrop lifts Aegislash into the sky. Meanwhile, Sucker Punch takes out Raichu before it can do anything. And then Aegislash can't King's Shield while it's in the sky, so King's Shield is just not an option for it this turn, I think. Skydrop then ends, and because it's slower than Bisharp, Bisharp gets to attack next. Aegislash is back there on the field. That's a really fun way to pick apart their opponent's last 2 Pokemon at the end there. There's a real kind of elegance to how they did that. Yeah, the Skydrop in that other set was not the most inspiring thing, but it's been pretty fun to watch in this one. Let's see if the Oguris can keep it going in Game 3. Tornadus and Gardevoir once again against Nidoking and Togekiss. Gardevoir copying Serene Grace again. I just noticed its nickname. I hadn't been paying attention to that until now. Mega Evolves. We see a Follow Me. We see Skydrop into the Togekiss. Oh, interesting. I didn't know this interaction. So I guess because Togekiss is in the sky, attacks are not redirected into it. That's not intuitive to me. I would have guessed that the attack would be redirected and would fail because Togekiss is in the sky. And the Oguris would sabotage themselves with this particular Skydrop. But no, apparently the effect of Follow Me is not there anymore when Togekiss is in the sky. So it'll take no damage from the Skydrop, but they just made Nidoking a sitting duck, and it gets one-shot by Psychic. That's, I guess, going to be a good interaction to know if I play some of these Skydrop spammers later in the season, because that is not what I would have guessed would happen. It's good to get a crash course on my Skydrop interactions here, I guess. Nidoking gone, never getting to benefit from the Sheer Force. Raichu's here now. Yeah, Skydrop does no damage, but that was a very cool play turn 1. Tornadus dropped to a Focus Sash by a Raichu Thunderbolt, but what is getting in the way of a Gardevoir Hyper Voice right now? I mean, both these Pokemon survive it, but they take damage. Tailwind from Togekiss. Can Tornadus match the Tailwind? Or will it be fully paralyzed? Or will it try to do something else instead of matching the Tailwind? Let's see. We get Protect from Gardevoir. We do get Tailwind from Tornadus. Hidden Power Ice will knock it out. Yeah, Hidden Power Ice instead of Thunderbolt to cover for a Landorus or a Thundurus switch in. This form of Thundurus has Volt Absorb, so 2 possible electric immunities in the back for the Oguris. Actually kind of bold to click the Thunderbolt into Tornadus that last turn. Well played there by Pendragon United. Now we get Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan came to this game. Alright, Raichu switching out to Aegislash. We just see a Protect from Togekiss. So the Gardevoir can go nuts here and maybe sweep, but it has to get past the Aegislash somehow. Fake Out goes into that slot. It does hit thanks to Scrappy, but the flinch doesn't matter here. Hyper Voice doesn't do a whole lot. Gardevoir just protecting now. We see a Follow Me from the Togekiss. No Skydrop to remove it, but we see Earthquake from the Kangaskhan. It uses up the Shuka Berry on Aegislash, not doing much damage in the process, but they must have some game plan built on that. Maybe their last Pokemon is Thundurus. Landorus. Maybe the last Pokemon is Landorus. Iron Head into the Gardevoir, protected. Tailwind over on one side, not the other. It's Bisharp Blast. Was that Earthquake covering for Raichu coming back in? I don't know. We see King's Shield from the Aegislash. Ice Punch into the Togekiss. Togekiss taking hits pretty well. Here gets a second Tailwind up. There will not be a second Tailwind for the Oguris as Tornadus has been knocked out already. And they get to throw some attacks back. Kangaskhan taking the hits pretty well, though, even with the Iron Head crit from Aegislash. It will get a chance to knock out the Togekiss with an Ice Punch crit that I'm pretty sure doesn't matter. Bisharp getting the knockoff into Aegislash, knocking that out. And suddenly, Raichu is the only Pokemon left for Pendragon United, and a little bit of a faux pas to forfeit in Draft League just because of stat tracking, but yeah, I don't think they had a way to win this one. What happened in this game? The Raichu dispatched the Tornadus pretty nicely with a Thunderbolt, as it turned out that the Oguris didn't bring either of their 2 electric immunities, but I mean, the Skydrop really, I think, was the key play here, right? It negated the Follow Me on Togekiss, which honestly, if I were Pendragon United here, I would not know that was going to happen, and I would play into it too, probably. And so Nidoking was just wiped out, and then there just wasn't enough to stop the pressure from the Gardevoir. There was the Aegislash, but they had Bisharp in the back to counter that because the Aegislash didn't have Sacred Sword. So that's a great Skydrop game right there. You love to see it. What a funny, obscure move to be coming up quite a bit already this season. Next up, we have... Do I have the energy to say it? Boys! We have Bois here, taking on the Glasgow Girafarig. For Bois, I'd like to say the plan is simple, but I'm not sure what it is. They have some fast threats in Latios and Greninja. They have some slow threats in Trevenant, actually, is the only one. We got Latios on both sides. I think Bois has the one that can Mega Evolve. It's definitely Mega Metagross on the Girafarig side. I remember that Pokemon putting in work last week. I could see like a... So Mega Latios kind of just sits on the field and shuts down a lot of what the Girafarig have here, with the exceptions of their Latios and Metagross. So I could actually just see like a Latios setup game plan with Togetic support, with Arcanine checking the Metagross to an extent. You can intimidate it after it Mega Evolves. With Trevenant able to burn Metagross or hit it with Ghost damage, or hit Latios with Ghost damage. Greninja with the Dark Stab that's super effective into those two. So I could see this game plan for Bois being Latios plus a bunch of supports, and that is a pretty simple plan. But they might be cooking something else with that Trevenant, who knows. And Ditto, of course, is a wild card. If Ditto turns into... Oh, I hope Ditto turns into Latios and they get 2 Latios. That would be really fun to see. Double Latios would go nuts here. And on the Girafarig side, kind of feels like another Mega Metagross game plan, probably. Which, you know, does have the favorable Mega matchup. The problem is Bois have so many other threats into it. But it does have its own Follow Me support. It could just be like click big offensive buttons with some good support Pokemon around them, right? Meowstic can set screens or something. Metagross, Latios, and Superior can all hit pretty hard, at least Superior after it's boosted itself with Contrary. I don't know what Rhydon's here to do. Let's find out. Okay, Latios and Togetic against Furret and Superior. So Eviolite on the Togetic is not a surprise. It does kind of look like big attacker plus follow me on both sides of the field right now. I would think Latios probably has the advantage over Superior, although Superior can run Dragon Pulse. I just don't know that it hits very hard, especially if you don't click Leaf Storm first. Also, Dragon Pulse redirected into Togetic does nothing, so never mind. That's not viable. Latios Mega Evolves here. Ah, it's Taunt. Oh, it's Taunt Superior. Well, that completely changes my preconceptions of what was likely to happen here. It taunts the Togetic. Latios will get 1 Calm Mind, but then Superior also is faster. I think it has 1 point more base speed, at least compared to standard Latios. I'm guessing Mega Latios is probably... Maybe it's not faster. Hang on. Captivate. What does that do? Oh. Partially lowers the special attack of both targets? Oh, no, it doesn't affect Togetic. I think Captivate harshly lowers the special attack of a target of the opposite gender. That's why it didn't work on Togetic, because this Togetic happens to be female. But Latios is a guaranteed male species, so that's actually a super fun tech to bring against it. Very creative there by the Girafarig. And Latios goes from +1 special attack to -1. Togetic can't use Tailwind after the taunt. Tailwind? I went for Tailwind, interesting. Latios, maybe it doesn't gain speed when it Mega Evolves, in which case it would still be, I think, 1 point slower than Superior. So the Taunted Captivate is an incredible tech to shut down this Latios mode. I didn't see that coming at all. Well cooked by the Girafarig. We see Ditto come in now, it'll turn into Furret. And it will reveal Ice Fairy on Superior and Mental Herb on Furret, covering for Taunt themselves. Now the Leaf Storm does a lot of damage to Ditto, gets Superior boost. Latios throws a weakened Draco Meteor at Furret, doesn't do much damage and drops it to -3 special attack, and now another Captivate will drop it to -5. Latios switches out. We see Greninja. We see Metagross. Follow me from the Furret, redirecting a Leaf Storm that would KO, but it misses. Pretty unfortunate for the Girafarig there. As Ditto switches out, Latios is back without its special attack drops and without Furret here to keep clicking Captivate. But also the Calm Mind setup, clearly not safe here. Metagross Mega Evolves, a lot of offensive pressure to be seen here. It protects this turn. Greninja goes for Mat Block. I'll be honest, I don't remember what that does. Blocks incoming attacks, sure. Stops a Leaf Storm. Now Furret reveals a Focus Sash on Greninja. We see Dark Pulse into Furret not get the KO. Greninja's taunted, no more Mat Block, but Draco Meteor will crit and KO Superior. Now we see the Latios on the other side. Ditto is still here. They can turn it into Latios in this game, but not yet at least, as Togetic switches in. Furret, follow me. Latios Ice Beam into Greninja, gets to freeze, but Greninja thaws immediately and goes for Dark Pulse and knocks out Furret. Absolutely crazy turn right there. An Ice Beam freeze into an immediate thaw. Well, the hacks kind of works out to neutral, doesn't it? But that's got to be a scary turn for both sides. It's got to be an emotional roller coaster if you're playing this set. Metagross is back. Still vulnerable to a Dark Pulse. As we see an Ice Beam not KO the Togetic. Greninja Ice Beam does a lot to Latios. Latios pretty specially bulky though. Togetic drops the double up with the Iron Head. Ditto comes in. It does not turn into Latios. It turns into Mega Metagross. Also pretty powerful. Ice Punch takes out the opponent's Latios. We got Latios and Metagross versus Latios and Metagross at this point. And Bois now have 2 Megas because their Latios is Mega Evolved and they get a Mega Metagross here. Honestly, Ditto might be kind of broken this season, if only for being able to give you a second Mega in the same game. I wonder how good Ditto was in real VGC 2015. I have no idea. I mean, I don't hear about it showing up on the big teams, but I wonder whether it had some kind of niche. Anyway, Dark Pulse. Got that Gen 6 Protean. Does a lot of damage and flinches. Ditto probably choice locked into that Ice Punch. And Bois started off in some trouble there. The Captivate was an amazing tech. You don't usually bring moves or abilities that depend on the opponent's gender because there's so much randomness to that, but if one of their opponent's greatest threats is a fixed gender species, that is a disadvantage of running Mega Latios or Mega Latios that I did not expect to see this season. That your opponent can bring stuff like, what is that movie even called? Captivate. I could also bring Attract if they wanted, but that's still inconsistent. They can bring Captivate on an opposite gender Pokemon to shut that down. Amazing tech, put Bois in a bit of a hole early on, but then they clutched up like the goat that they're named for. And Mega Latios plus Protean Greninja plus Mega Metagross was just too much offensive pressure, I guess, for the Girafarig to handle in the end. But what about Game 2? Bois leading with Trevenant this time, and Arcanine, the two Pokemon we didn't see before, against Latios and Meowstic. Okay. We get a Fake Out into Arcanine, and an Ice Beam immediately into Trevenant for a lot of damage, but not a KO, but it freezes! Citrus Berry. But Trevenant's definitely in range of another Ice Beam in this time. Well, Arcanine flinches because the Fake Out, and Trevenant does not thaw immediately this time. Drops to an Ice Beam. We don't get to see what it does here. We don't get to seek out what kind of set they're running, so I can brainstorm for my own Trevenant. Oh well. But Arcanine takes his Psychic from Meowstic pretty well, gets a Snarl, lowers the special attack, and does decent chip to both of these Psychic types. That'll pressure that'll pressure Latios out. But Superior comes in. If Arcanine goes for Snarl again, it actually boosts Superior. And Superior should threaten this Greninja that just came in. Not before Dark Pulse knocks out Meowstic. And it's not another Snarl, it's Overheat into the Superior, perhaps reading the switch, knowing that Superior might like to cheese that Snarl boost. 2 quick KOs for Bois. Latios and Metagross are all that remain for the Girafarig. Metagross will Mega Evolve, Greninja will take an Ice Beam and hit back with its own Stab Ice Beam, not quite getting the KO. I was going to say what's stopping a Snarl in this position though, but Arcanine actually going for something probably better here, a Will-O-Wisp into Metagross. The greatest hacks in the world, landing a Will-O-Wisp. Greninja still knocked out by a super effective Iron Head, but what does Bois have in the back? It's Ditto. It turns into Latios. It gets hit hard by an Ice Beam, and frozen! Unreal! And once again, no immediate thaw. The Ice Punch double up takes out the Ditto. Arcanine hits back with an Overheat. Honestly, is the fact that the Girafarig still have their Latios here going to make the difference in this game? If they win because their Latios is still on the field, I don't know if they can. It's only clicked Ice Beam, right? It might even be choiced. I haven't really been watching for that. If it's locked into Ice Beam, I don't think the Girafarig can win this. Wait, unless they freeze Arcanine. They've already frozen 2 Pokemon in this game. They've frozen 3 total in the set. 2 in this game. They absolutely can win this by freezing Arcanine. If Latios still being here makes the difference, I'm going to lose it with whatever energy I have left at this point to do that. Arcanine does not get frozen. Narrowly survives the Zen Headbutt. Metagross narrowly survives the Snarl into burn damage, but if Arcanine has Protect, it guaranteed wins here. No Protect, it dodges the Zen Headbutt. It didn't Protect, but it dodged a Zen Headbutt. Would Iron Head just win? This Arcanine is so low. Surely yes, right? Surely there was no reason to risk the Zen Headbutt miss. Oh my god, I thought I'd be okay once I got through the cooler London Vespiquens set. I didn't know there was going to be anything bananas like this. 3 freezes, 1 immediate thaw. If Arcanine had gotten frozen here, or if this Zen Headbutt on the previous turn did slightly more, or if it flinched, or if this Zen Headbutt didn't miss, in any of those situations, Latios and Mega Metagross clutch up, and the Glasgow Girafarig bring this to Game 3. But I guess if you're in a clutching up competition against Bois, you're not likely to be favored. Alright, 2-0 win for Bois. But the Girafarig brought some great text. The Captivate was super fun to see. And finally, last set of the week. The Snowpoint Snorunts versus the Toronto Tynamos. The Tynamos have Charizard and Venusaur. I keep raving about that duo. They're both Megas. Charizard is Mega Y. You can run the Venusaur with Chlorophyll and take advantage of the sun if you Mega Evolve the Charizard, or you can Mega Evolve the Venusaur in some other mode situationally. They brought Double Dragon to complement the Charizard and Venusaur, covering a lot of their weaknesses between the Latios and the Garchomp. Garchomp able to click Earthquake next to Charizard to complement it nicely offensively. Latios is also a good complement to Venusaur here, actually. Latios, I mean, is actually a good complement to Venusaur here because it is good into Venusaur's fire weakness and also its psychic weakness. But a lot of this team is weak to ice, and they didn't bring an ice resist. But there's no Mega Glalie on the other side. If there were, Mega Glalie might actually be kind of fun here, except we'd have to be afraid of Charizard. But they do actually have a lot of ice weaknesses and no ice resist, except of course Venusaur gets thick fat when it Mega Evolves. Then they have the Sylveon, then they have the Pachirisu. I don't know. They're going to use those to play Pokemon, and we're going to see what happens. On the Snorunts side, Mega Sceptile with Thundurus, the Eerie Impulse, or it's not Eerie Impulse, is it? It's Discharge. The Discharge to set up Lightning Rod, hit the Charizard hard, maybe get some Paras, and also boost the Sceptile is totally on the table in this set. They have Gyarados, which is, depending on set, potentially very threatening into most of what the Tynamos have brought, except it has to be a little bit afraid of Pachirisu. Pachirisu could kind of maybe get bullied by Persian with like Fake Out and stuff. And then they have a couple of offensive wild cards in Metagross and Azelf. Metagross doesn't look super strong here. Well, it's very strong into all of Venusaur, Latias, and Sylveon. It just has a lot of trouble with Charizard and Garchomp, so it might just be a question of how it's positioned. And Azelf, who knows? That Pokemon is a wild card. Hopefully they have coverage for their opponent's biggest threats this week. Oh, let's see. We've got Azelf and Persian against Pachirisu and Sylveon. Pachirisu is made to flinch by a Fake Out, but it shows a Rocky Helmet, so Persian takes some damage as well. Psychic into Sylveon does not a ton of damage. Sylveon very specially bulky, but it does get the special defense drop, so that could matter down the line. We'll see. But Sylveon going for a Combine, getting rid of the drop immediately. Probably not going to matter then. We see the Pachirisu with Follow Me, covering so that Sylveon can keep setting up. That'll be pretty effective this turn. Pachirisu does get taunted, though, so it won't be able to click Follow Me again immediately. We know it doesn't have a Mental Herb. It does survive a Psychic. It can go for, like, Nuzzle or Super Fang or something if it has that later. Sylveon does get a pretty free Combine this turn. The Combine Sylveon makes a lot of sense, actually, yeah, because Mega Sceptile matches up badly into that. Thundurus, if it's attacking, is probably a special attacker, so the boosts are helpful there. The only Fairy resist that the Snorunts have brought is the Metagross. The Metagross is a giant threat into Sylveon. It could have like Hidden Power Fire or something, right? But the Metagross is a giant threat into Sylveon. But if you cover that one thing with your Charizard and your Garchomp, like two of your best Pokemon, effectively enough, then Sylveon actually is pretty hard for the Snorunts to beat, isn't it? Especially now that it's setting up pretty freely in this early game next to Pachirisu. Sylveon protecting here, as Persian goes for an Icy Wind, which chips the Pachirisu a little bit. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage. Sylveon avoids a Psychic. Pachirisu gets the Volt Switch off the field, so now it can come back in, not taunted, and click Follow Me one more time. Makes sense. We get Latios coming in here. Latios, it doesn't love to take an Icy Wind, but it's not like it's going to do a ton of damage, and it does love to take a Psychic. Icy Wind coming out here. Sylveon doesn't care that much about a speed stat. Latios kind of does. This has off, though, not choiced, showing that it can switch attacks and go for a Shadow Ball to do about half to Latios, and get the special defense drop again, as Latios, not hitting back, actually setting Tailwind. Okay, so maybe if they want to get Sylveon going in Tailwind, then the Icy Wind might actually make a real difference here, because Sylveon is already halfway to not actually benefiting from that speed boost anymore. But Sylveon will throw off a Hyper Voice, it'll get 2 KOs. It's going to be hard to stop unless they have Metagross in the back. They have Gyarados, and they do have Metagross. Latios just throws off a Dragon Pulse, doesn't do that much. Hyper Voice almost KOs the Gyarados. The Dragon Pulse Hyper Voice double up knocks Gyarados down to like 1 HP. We have seen so many Pokemon surviving on about 1 HP this week. I'm choosing to believe that people are prepping super well and their calcs are paying off, but whether it's prep or luck, it's definitely exciting to watch. And Gyarados showing a Citrus Berry to get a bit of recovery. Waterfall crits the Sylveon and knocks it out, and immediately that's the biggest threat out of here. Latios does take his Zen Headbutt from Metagross. Garchomp is the last Pokemon for the Tynamos. Earthquake will not KO the Metagross. Dragon Pulse will not KO the Gyarados. Gyarados survives on like 1 HP for the second time in this game. Waterfalls to Garchomp, knocks itself out on the rough skin. Latias also narrowly taking a Zen Headbutt, and the Garchomp Earthquake will seal this one for the Toronto Tynamos. The Gyarados so narrowly took 2 different hits, and it wasn't enough in the end. Partly because the Latias was also doing the same thing, because everybody's narrowly taking hits this week. And although the Snorunts did remove the Sylveon, the Double Dragon offensive threats in the back with the Tailwind and Latias were just too much for them to deal with. So what are they going to do in Game 2? You can't even Thunder Wave Garchomp, so it actually does look pretty hard for them to deal with. Maybe position the Gyarados a bit differently, intimidate the Garchomp, maybe a Vice Fang. I don't know, let's find out. Azelf leads with Metagross. Metagross leading this time, maybe trying to handle an early game Sylveon against Double Dragon lead. And immediately we get Hidden Power Ice on the Azelf into the Garchomp. Boom, goodbye, except not quite because it has Focus Sash. But big Hidden Power Ice reveal there. So we've seen Psychic, Shadow Ball, Hidden Power Ice. Did we see Protect? I don't remember. I don't know. Okay, Earthquake. These two both have Levitate, but it'll do a lot to Metagross, you would think. And it does. Tailwind from the Latias gives a pretty big speed advantage to the Tynamo. Iron Head into Latias does about half, a little bit, tiny bit less, but then with the leftovers, it's more cleanly less. So still a lot of offensive pressure coming out here from the Tynamos. That said, Garchomp, despite the exciting Focus Sash survival last turn, will now drop to a Bullet Punch. It does get to do a bit of rough skin damage back. Latias taking advantage of the Tailwind. Does a little bit more than half to Azelf with a Dragon Pulse, but then takes a Shadow Ball back and is knocked out by a crit. And the way this set is going, folks, I bet that crit mattered, because I bet Latias would have survived on like 1%. If that hadn't crit. That's just been the vibe so far. Okay, Pachirisu and Charizard. Charizard will Mega Evolve, of course. It still has 2 turns of Tailwind to take advantage of. Heat Wave just gets both KOs here. It still should be super hard to deal with the Pachirisu able to support it with Nuzzle and Follow Me, right? What are the Snorunts? Did I call them the Tricos earlier? It's been a long recording session. What do the Snorunts have in the back? Thundurus and Sceptile. So, you can't simply Thunder Wave the Charizard because the Pachirisu can redirect it and take nothing thanks to Volt Absorb. Sceptile can turn off its fire weakness with a little tech called Mega Evolving, but... And that also would make it immune to Nuzzle. And then I think it's faster than Charizard after it gets the speed boost, so you can just protect through this turn. I think you have speed advantage, but you still have the Follow Me Pachirisu to deal with. It's hard to believe that Thundurus and Sceptile can pull this off, but let's see. Thundurus protects. Charizard protects. I'm guessing Sceptile protects. Yep. Avoiding a Nuzzle. Clicking Nuzzle into Sceptile, probably not the best call because, again, it is immune after it Mega Evolves and it has no reason not to Mega Evolve. I do think Sceptile probably should have Mega Evolved that last turn, though, because I think that's going to matter to the speed interaction with Charizard, is it not? Maybe Sceptile is already faster than Charizard before it Mega Evolves? Hang on. Okay, it is. Okay, so speed interaction doesn't matter. Sceptile's probably faster either way. So I don't think it makes any difference that they didn't Mega Evolve a turn earlier. Never mind that. See the Follow Me from Pachirisu. We do see Discharge from the Thundurus. Thundurus being faster, the Charizard's pretty big here. That Discharge does a lot of damage. And it's not bothered about the Follow Me. Okay, I look too much at the 1v1 between Charizard and Sceptile. Thundurus is probably the key to pulling this one back. It also gets the Discharge Para. That is a 30%. And for good measure, it survives the Heat Wave on like 1 HP, because that's what everybody's doing this week. Couple Dragon Pulses from Sceptile take out the Pachirisu, and another Discharge from Thundurus takes out the Charizard, and I missed until now that it was Life Orb Thundurus. It does knock itself out, but it doesn't matter, because Sceptile is still standing, unharmed, in fact boosted by its partner's Discharge. Of course Thundurus narrowly took that Heat Wave. Let's see what kind of narrow survivals we get in Game 3. We get Thundurus and Gyarados leading against Garchomp and Charizard. Interesting switch-ups from both teams. Garchomp intimidated immediately, but Charizard will Mega Evolve. Another hidden power ice. We know that Garchomp has the sash. It just goes for the -1 Dragon Claw into Thundurus. It actually still does a fair bit. And Charizard showing a super effective hidden power into Gyarados. I'm going to say that's probably not electric, because I would think Gyarados would take a lot more if it were. That's a Mega Charizard Y. That thing hits hard. So, rock? But why? Maybe it is electric, because I don't know why you would run hidden power. Does Gyarados have any other weaknesses besides electric and rock? I don't think so, right? Maybe hidden power electric. I mean, hidden power is a pretty weak attack. Maybe hidden power electric from Mega Charizard Y just doesn't do as much as I would anticipate into a strong Pokemon like Gyarados. But I'm going to say my guess. I'm having fun playing Guess the Hidden Power. I'm going to say it's rock, because I think electric would have, in the spirit of this set, very nearly KO'd and just barely missed it. Maybe I'm wrong. Good chance I'm wrong. Charizard dodges a Stone Edge. But now Gyarados will protect as his partner goes for Discharge into Charizard. Does it get... We know that does like 80. Does it get the para this time? It does not. Thundurus now drops to its own Life Orb damage and a +1 Earthquake from Garchomp. Or sorry, -1 Earthquake, because Garchomp is still here. Because Gyarados protected around his partner's Discharge. We see Azelf come in. We see Gyarados switch out to Metagross. The Mega Sceptile not coming back for a repeat performance here. Charizard protects. Charizard and Garchomp are both very low, and Latias has not come in to set Tailwind so far. That Dragon Claw not doing a whole lot to Metagross. I guess trying to deal with the Gyarados, right? That's why they went for that instead of like Earthquake. Yeah, because Gyarados just switched out there. Now the Latias comes in, but it might be a little bit late. They might have benefited from some of the advantages it could give them earlier, but we'll see. Takes a Bullet Punch pretty nicely. Charizard does drop to a Psychic. See, Charizard would not be afraid of that Psychic if it had Tailwind up already, right? But then it's a whole different game if Latias comes in earlier. Who knows the decision tree from there and everything. But yeah, not having that early Tailwind does seem like it's hurting the Tynamos a bit here. Let's see how they can recover. Sylveon comes in. Azelf just goes right for Shadow Ball into Latias. Now the Tailwind goes up. But Sylveon is pretty threatening in Tailwind, but that Shadow Ball did so little damage to Metagross. And with Charizard already knocked out and Garchomp at 1 HP, they might... Getting the Sylveon going would be great, but they might just not have enough for Metagross at this point. Let's see. Iron Head knocks out the Latias. So it's 1 HP Garchomp and it's Sylveon. And Garchomp just drops to a Bullet Punch. Metagross is pretty low, but it's definitely not in Shadow Ball range. Sylveon going for the Calm Mind setup. That will help it against Azelf, and Shadow Ball takes out Azelf here. I feel like in that position you have to take your chances with the Shadow Ball into Metagross, right? I don't know if Metagross is in range, but you could always crit. And so they get the KO on Azelf, but... I mean, Sylveon... Totally plausible that Sylveon can win this if they get rid of the Metagross, so I think you just have to take your chances with the Shadow Ball into Metagross that turn, but... I don't know if it works out for them anyway. In any case... Metagross delivers the final KO with Iron Head. Week 2 is complete. I have no idea how long this video is going to be. Oh my god, this is going to be a long one. But this week was worth it. Some of the things that happened were unbelievable. We got a crash course on Skydrop. We got a crash course on Dive Cats. of a kind. We got a crash course on good EV spreads that narrowly survive important hits. And there's still 6 more weeks of regular season, and I don't even know the playoff structure for this season with the 2 pools. I don't know how long that's going to be, but there's a lot to get through. If you made it to the end, by the way, I'm pretty sure I'm starting a new job next week, so I'll have less time to do stuff like this. I'm going to try to keep these going. It's going to be a little bit more difficult, that's for sure. Especially with how much there is to cover this season. But that's my promise. I will make an honest effort at it at least, because, I mean, how can we miss out on whatever these teams are cooking up for the next 6 weeks? Alright, see you next time, folks.